61 CD's Saturday stud. By the way, that game, if that was the only catch he'd have had, you still would have won Saturday stud because our picks were so bad.
Don't take away from my win. Come on.
Yeah. Jabari Small punches it in on the next play. Vols now leading suddenly 21-17. Closing minutes, first half. Slovis gets sacked, slammed to the ground. That was the last play he would see. Shaken up on the play. So Pitt goes the second half without their quarterback. Vols do end up converting with a field goal before halftime. 24-17 the score. Now we go to the third. Jalen Wright takes the handoff. Looks like he's picked up the first down, but the ball comes out, and Pittsburgh, upon further review, gets the football.
That's what y'all teach over there, right? One guy holds them up, the other guy comes in and strips the football.
Perfect. Textbook teaching right there.
Got a field goal out of the drive, did Pitt. 24-20 Tennessee. Fourth quarter. Vols with another mistake on the punt. Flowers. Yeah, it's more like weeds there. Pitt takes over in Tennessee territory. 4th and goal. It's now Nick Patty in for Keaton Slovis.
You know, the realignment talk about Nebraska moving to the group of 5, that doesn't even look necessarily like a beneficial move for the Huskers.
They're most in a game in 10
USC
seasons, but he finds Jared Wayne to tie the game.
Runs away from Stanford, hangs on for victory, 41-28. Florida, the Gators, much ballyhooed opening win against the defending Pac-12 champions. Of course, a new team shows up and a new quarterback
after one touchdown was called
from week to week in college football. What a day of college football. Here's the voice of college football as you check out some of the late scores on the scoreboard there. Welcome into our late night call-in show. We ask that you give our show a call. We'll drop the link in the description section in just a second and into the live chat as well. Give us a call. Let's talk college football. It was another amazing day, starting with the noon Eastern time game with Texas taking on Alabama. Much better game than most of you and me. I also thought it would be, as the Longhorns maybe played their most impressive game, maybe played their most impressive game in a loss than all the wins that they've amassed over the past decade. This might have been a more impressive performance with their starting quarterback on the sideline after the first quarter and their backup quarterback hobbling and limping on a bad right ankle. And Texas was still the better team. They look like the better team. I'm not saying they are the better team, but today in Austin, Texas was the better team. An impressive showing by the Longhorns. If they play like that the rest of the year, they'll go undefeated. And again, another tremendous night of college football. So we welcome everybody in. And again, I will drop the link there in the chat so we can talk to you. And please check out the videos that I posted here today. We did an instant analysis of Alabama and Texas. I share my thoughts there, of course, on the future of the Longhorns and their performance today, as well as Alabama's messy, sloppy performance and fortunate outcome. But Bama gets it done, so credit the Crimson Tide as well. Also dropped a video a few hours ago in the wake of not Wake Forest, but in the wake of Jimbo Fisher losing to Appalachian State.
Calling you to stay at a Disney Resort
Appalachian
hotel,
State scored 61 points in North Carolina.
The world's most magical celebration. You soar to
And
adventures
so
with extra time
Texas
in any of
A&M's
the 4 theme parks
offense,
every day.
after
Start
facing
saving
a
today.
App State defense, they gave up 63 points to North Carolina last week, could only muster 14 points, and actually the offense only mustered 7 points. Check out the video on Jimbo Fisher as I present a pretty sterling case that Jimbo Fisher not getting the job done there at Texas A&M. It was a pretty easy one to make, but we exhaust all the facts and all the context there at Texas A&M. All right, let's get to the late night scoreboard with two pretty big ball games being played right now. BYU and Baylor in a defensive slugfest right now in Provo, and also Mississippi State and Arizona are underway. Late night there with Mississippi State up on Arizona 7-6. Of course, the Wildcats stunned everyone, including myself, defeating San Diego State last week.
The Home Depot app makes
And
doing
so
easy, showing you where to find
let's get
what
to
you
the
need.
scores,
Let's call it turn
and then
by
we'll get to
turn
your
shopping.
calls.
It's made for doing. Download the Home Depot app.
Toledo on top of UMass. It's just about a final 55-10. Eastern Michigan, Louisiana, all tied up at 21. That is a late game playing in Louisiana. They must have had weather issues, I would think. 21 all in the third quarter. Goodness gracious. Troy leads Alabama A&M 31-3. North Texas on top of Texas Southern 52-24. Again, really late. Let me refresh the page. I just did to make sure we've got current scores. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Michigan. Here's another late nighter. I know that game was delayed for a little while. Michigan leads Hawaii 42-3. Aloha there. Virginia Tech on top of BC 24-10. That's in the fourth quarter. Oregon leads Eastern Washington 42-7. I'm still not thinking that these are up-to-date scores, even though I've refreshed this page like 3 times. That can't be right. Let's give it another shot here. There is no way. There is no way. The heck with it. All right, let's get to your calls here at the Voice of College Football, and we will get. There is no way that there's that many games in the Eastern and Central time zones that are that late. I've refreshed the page about 14 times. So either my laptop is seriously screwed up, which I doubt because it's been money for me, or ESPN seriously screwed up, which that's been the case a number of times. All right, please join the show. You've got the link. Give me a call. Call up the scoreboard over here. See if we can get some accurate scores. Only 55 people on the line. Folks, get on out there. Bring some folks in here. We had about 6,500 views on this late night call-in show that I think we all have a great time. So please, please, please get on out there and bring some people in. This is a ground roots effort. I pour no money into promotions. Maybe I'm going to start. So get out there and bring some folks in. We don't want to stop doing this anytime soon. It's too fun. All right, let's check out the scoreboard over here. Which shows us yeah, I'm getting the same scores. Man, it must be ESPN.com is that far behind. That's really weird. I keep refreshing on 2 different laptops, and there's no way that all those games are that far behind. That is really strange. Anyway, we'll take your calls here at the Voice of College Football. That's why I'm here. Take your calls. Grab the link in the chat. In the meantime, I will pontificate. Don't get me started. Then I may talk for a couple hours and not take your calls for a few hours. All right. USC, they scored 66 against Rice. I saw the first 4 or 5 drives of the game. Lincoln Riley is obviously an offensive genius, one of the best play callers in college football. Stanford's defense had no chance. He's got one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. He's got one of the best wide receivers. He spread it out, though. He doesn't concentrate on Jordan Addison alone. They've got Mario Williams, Brendan Rice, and others to get involved. And USC, I can't wait to see them play a legitimate defense. They were all over Stanford early. The Cardinal had no issues moving the ball either. They had 300 yards in the first half with Tanner McKee, but they turned the ball over and could not get in the game. So USC wins that one 41-28. Was the last score I saw. There was just seconds left in the game. I was hoping for the backdoor cover with the Cardinal. Elsewhere in the Pac-12, I believe we've got a game going on between Oregon State, of course, and Fresno State. I don't want to read the score here on my laptop because it's obviously dated. And I can only see 2 games right now, and that's BYU and Baylor, and also the Arizona-Mississippi State game, which I'm intrigued to watch and track to see how good Arizona is. I haven't paid any attention to Arizona football, meaning watch a game forever, because there's been no reason to. But this team might be worth watching. Mississippi State's up 12-7, 5 minutes left in the first quarter. So that's the story from the Pac-12. That's pretty much it. We move to the Big 12, and we've got Oklahoma State. Last I saw, they were up on Arizona State 27-17. I did not see any of that game. Game of the day, Alabama-Texas from a brand standpoint. And man, Texas A&M, or Texas, Texas A&M was a joke. Texas, as I stated off the top, I cannot be more impressed with Texas. I cannot be more impressed. For as much grief as I've given Sark and the Texas program, and rightfully so, because it's been one huge disappointment with all the money, all the resources, all the fans, all the recruiting. They came ready to play. Tough, determined, great game plan, everything, except they needed one more play. And there were so many times during that game where Alabama got a bit fortunate. An Alabama secondary that was abused by Texas in this game. Abused by Texas. Oklahoma's knocked off Kent State, only gave up 3 points in that game. Elsewhere in the Big 12, impressive showing by Deuce Vaughn, Adrian Martinez, Knowles at wide receiver, Kansas State, and the defense, of course, the front 7, as I stated during the offseason a number of times, at Kansas State is arguably the best in the Big 12, and Kansas State really took it to Mizzou 40-12. HR picking stuff. Texas choked in the red zone. Did they? Yeah, that's a poor choice of words. The officials failed to make some calls in the red zone. There was a pass interference that should have been called. Quinn Ewers threw a ball to the back of the end zone that was remarkable. He threw a couple deep passes that they reminded me of the passes that I saw him throw in shorts on videos on Twitter, where it's just like, look at this hotshot kid that's the number 1 quarterback in the nation throwing passes out in Elite 11 drills, that sort of setting, and him just being able to flip the ball and fire it, or if he really draws back, like we saw Matthew Stafford on social media the other day. Have you seen that, where he throws it 100 yards, seemingly? Throws it 100 yards. They say 100 yards. It looks like 100 yards. Quinn Ewers looked like he was throwing the ball a few times on those deep routes like he was in T-shirt and shorts. He's that good. He's just flat out that good. I hope he's healthy. I don't have any rooting interest in either team or in Quinn Ewers in particular, but I just want to see that type of talent on the field. And don't want to see anyone get hurt. But Ewers to Worthy could be one of the great combinations in college football. Absolutely. And again, Texas they impressed me so much. I can't even begin. I just can't begin to. I posted a video. I went on for 15 minutes about how impressed I was with Texas, but they lost the game. You know what? We should be impressed with Bama as well, because they went into Texas and they came away with a win. And Bama has not faced a road game outside the SEC in 11 years. And even the road games that they played last year, they struggled. At Auburn, 4 overtimes, should have lost that game, were outplayed. Texas A&M was the loss. And a few other spots. Florida. Speaking of Florida, the real MVP, I see him there in the chat. Please give me a call, somebody, again. But I will sit here and talk college football for 5 hours. I've got plenty to talk about. I can dissect these games, believe me. Yeah, Kentucky. I have got to admit, I did not pick Kentucky to win, but as soon as I saw 6.5 points, I was like, are you kidding me? Or 5.5 points? I was like, give it to me immediately right now. Kentucky, sure. We overreact. And one of the overreactions is that Florida's great. Anthony Richardson's arrived. Sure, I was impressed with his debut this season. His debut was his second start all time. And of course, he played enough to throw like 9 touchdowns last year. And I was impressed with Anthony Richardson, and I still am. But we saw the downside to Anthony Richardson, too. He throws the ball all over the place. You don't know where it's going. But impressive athlete, of course. And Kentucky won that game despite kicking issues. Bad snap over the punter's head, gives up a safety. That's 2 points. Miss an extra point. That's another one. They had another kicking issue, I believe. But they made them there in the second half when they were down 13-7 and needed to come back to tie the game at 16-7. And then, of course, we saw Anthony Richardson. Don't want to blame it on him. Miscommunication, possibly, with the wide receiver. Maybe it was the wide receiver's fault. He broke off the route or failed to break off the route, possibly. Keatron Smith, the Ole Miss transfer, picked it off, pick 6. That was the difference in the game, of course, as Kentucky then kicked a clinching field goal to cement it 26-16. So huge win for Kentucky, first win in the SEC. As Gregory is letting us know, Michigan's up on Hawaii 49-3. Maybe that's a final score at this point. Baylor has scored on BYU. Maybe my laptop's catching up with ESPN, or ESPN's catching up with the laptop, possibly. I still can't believe some of those scores aren't finals. No, that doesn't seem right. Is there still 12 minutes left in the Michigan game? This is just hard for me to believe. Although, just like last week, there were so many weather delays. I've never seen, outside of there being catastrophic hurricane activity in the South. J-Man24 is saying yes. But there's that many games, really. Well, let me check on, let's say, Nebraska. Yeah, so the Mississippi State Arizona game, yeah, it's caught up. So here we go. These games are all still in progress. Goodness gracious. Okay, delays all over the place, I guess. Final seconds of the third quarter, Louisiana 21, Eastern Michigan 21. Good little ball game right there. Troy leads Alabama A&M 38-10. And for those of you that are that interested, College Game Day is going to App State next week for the Troy game. North Texas leads Texas Southern 58-24. Michigan on top of Hawaii 49-3. They just started the fourth quarter. Virginia Tech, here we go with the unpredictability of college football. Virginia Tech looked awful last week, and they are pretty bad, but still they're going to be 1-0 in the ACC. Lost to Old Dominion. Lead Boston College with 9 minutes left, 24-10. So still plenty of time there, but Virginia Tech leads 24-10. Oregon up huge in the third quarter. Again, I got to think that this game is later than it shows here. Anyway, 49-7. Oregon leads Eastern Washington. Indiana plays Idaho. It's only 35-22. Bad day for the Big Ten. Rough showing for the Big Ten. Iowa only scores 7 points. I think this is what Iowa's going to do each week. They're only going to score 7 points. They should announce to their defense during the week, we got to hold them to 6 or less. We only score 7. Iowa loses to Iowa State. Nebraska, of course, loses. We just saw that debacle. Can you believe it? I would ask, how many teams in the group of 5 is Nebraska better than? We should be asking, obviously, the Power 5, but the group of 5. They lost to Georgia Southern at home. So Nebraska loses. Iowa loses. Who am I missing? Lost in the Big Ten today. Somebody else lost big. Oh, Wisconsin, 17.5-point favorite. Lost at home to Wazoo. Big Ten, not a good week for the Big Ten. Could drop in the conference rankings. We'll release the conference rankings on Sunday or Monday. All right, let me catch up here. Baylor 6-3 on BYU. Second quarter, it's almost halftime. Oregon State, Fresno State. Mississippi State's up 12-7. Let's see if that widens out. All right, let's get to the calls. Will's here. How you doing, Will?
I'm trying to recover right now. Not a good week for not a good, embarrassing, just flat out embarrassing. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The players should be ashamed. The coaches should be ashamed. Not a good day.
I'm going to put
I'm not going to make any excuses.
All the teams that we should trash and ridicule, all the shame-ridden teams are going on the top shelf. Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Put Wisconsin up there. Okay, we'll start with those three.
I don't want Tommy Rees to be fired before the season, but I think after that performance, I don't think that there's any way that Notre Dame can reasonably keep Tommy Rees if the offense doesn't drastically improve right now. And I'm not going to make excuses. I think Michael Mayer had a great game. I think the punter and the kicker had a great game. No one else had a great game. No one else showed up. Jared Patterson was showing emotion after the game, and I like that. But there's everything that could go wrong went wrong for my team.
I'll only say one thing about players showing emotion after the game. That doesn't really. I've learned in life that just because some people show emotion and other people just by nature don't show emotion, that doesn't mean that the people that show emotion care and the people that don't show emotion don't care. People are just different.
I know, but like as Brian, I did watch Irish Breakdown after the game, and just the fact that Chris Sorge was the only one that showed emotion after that awful Cotton Bowl, even though he didn't even play. To me, that just shows. It shows. I don't know. It shows something to me, but yeah. I had to take a hiatus from watching college football today. I couldn't.
You did?
Yeah. Well, I eventually
after
watched
Notre Dame lost. No more college football for you the rest of the day.
I did end up watching the tail end of Texas A&M-App State, and then I ended up turning it on at the end of Florida Kentucky, but it was awful. It was awful.
I did not see any of the Notre Dame game. I saw 2 plays. I saw Tyler Buckner throw the last pick, and I think he threw a pick before that they took all the way, right?
Yeah.
So they were winning 21-19, something like that, and he throws a pick six. And then he throws another pick when they're in the red zone, ready to take the lead, or something like that. Anyway, no, actually, I think they scored late to make it close, right? 26-21. They were down 26-14.
Mm-hmm.
Buckner. So what do you think of Tyler Buckner? 18 of 32, 201 yards, 2 picks. Drew Pine came in.
Drew Pine didn't look much better, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, I don't like the fans right now that are over. Obviously, it's a terrible loss, but people are overreacting, saying that Marcus Freeman was an awful hire. I don't think we should grade him on that just yet.
Yes.
I definitely think
an
that.
Overreaction.
Yeah. I understand people are angry, but people need to be rational while being angry. This is part of why this country's gone the way it has. People don't think. People only use emotion and don't use logic.
How true. How very true. Thank you for that, Will. People take that to heart.
Yeah. But
although I did tweet out, and I did this just to kind of stir up some conversation and see if there would be some level of feedback on this comment. Mm-hmm. So I completely agree with you. I think Marcus Freeman was a good hire. We shall see it totally play out, but I believe he was a good hire. Mm-hmm. And he's only coached 3 games and really only 2 games as the head coach. So it's way, 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 way too early to judge Marcus Freeman, although we've got to evaluate the performance of the team, and he's responsible. I did tweet out because I have grown a little bit tired of the Marcus Freeman is, Bear Bryant out of the gate. So I did tweet out something to the effect of have we calmed down on the talk that Marcus Freeman is Messiah or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I mean, I kind of admit I was drinking the Kool-Aid. I was drinking the Kool-Aid too. Like, I feel like I already love the man already, even though I haven't met him in real life. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. I'm still a little speechless, but I feel like I had to show my face. Didn't want to look like a coward, so.
Will, we would not fault you. Yes, I would say that most of College Football Nation and the folks that we have on our show through the years, that a lot of people take a beating if their team that they love and adore lose that day, lose a big game or disappointing effort, and then they don't show up. But, you do what you want, Will. I don't want you to show up if you feel bad and just don't feel like talking on a particular night.
Yeah, I mean, we can't lose to Oski and Cal. We can't lose to Justin Wilcox next week. I don't know if I can handle. I don't know if I can take another loss.
Wow, if that would happen, that would be pretty remarkable there. Everybody keep in mind that loves Oregon football. We do have our Ducks post game, courtesy Exploring with Ben and Sam. Exploring with Ben. Ben's over on the Oregon channel, right, ready to fire up Oregon post game. So get on over there, folks.
Yeah. I just feel like this is the worst loss that I've I feel like just like by the expectation and how good the team is, I just feel like this is the worst loss that. Like the Tulsa loss wasn't like as bad because the team wasn't as good, and I mean I guess the loss to Navy or the loss to Navy. I mean Navy just I don't know. I feel like those aren't as bad, but I feel like this is the low. This is like the lowest I felt after a loss.
HR Pickin' Stuff says that's what was annoying for me too, Mark. They made Freeman out to be God, and he hasn't done anything. Brian Kelly is 263, 96, and 2. Thank you so much for the information there, HR Pickin' Stuff. That is not with Notre Dame. That's his overall record, of course. Did not win 26 games or 26 games per year at Notre Dame. Notre Dame fans saying Freeman was better.
I mean, I'm not saying Freeman's already better, but I mean, I just got to stick a Brian Kelly shtick. Like, I think it was the right time to move on from Kelly, but Kelly just moved on himself.
Yes.
And not
Notre Dame had to hire a coach. Brian Kelly left. They didn't kick him out the door.
Yeah.
So
Jason, UConn was in a Big East team. They're like they weren't really a Group of 5 level. They weren't in a Group of 5 conference, and UConn was a decent program with Randy Edsel at the time. So that wasn't as bad as Marshall. Yeah.
Wow. Searcher Green 9. Marcus Freeman. Watch the spelling there, Searcher Green. Is the worst hire in Notre Dame history so far. Well, yes, of course he is so far. He's 0-3. Yeah. So if he keeps this up, he's going to be 0-100. Not even Bob Davie and Ty Willingham started out 0-3. Well, yes, that's an obvious statement if all you're going by is his win-loss record. I do not believe that Marcus Freeman is the worst hire in Notre Dame football history. I was around to see them hire Jerry Faust out of high school.
Yeah.
It's still my take that if I were a betting man, I would put my money on Marcus Freeman being a success at Notre Dame.
Dustin, I need to see your receipt. Dustin, I need to see your receipt. I don't think you did.
And folks, that we've got Nebraska post game there at the Voice of College Football, our Nebraska show, and you can imagine what that is going to look and sound like. We believe they lost to Georgia Southern. Well, of course, we all can. They were a 23-point favorite. We had a Wisconsin team as a 17 or 18-point favorite lose. We had a Texas A&M team, 19 or 20-point favorite lose. We had Nebraska, 23-point favorite lose. And Notre Dame, of course, 20-point favorite lose. All right, Will, anything else?
Right. That's about it. I just wanted to show my face and talk a little bit.
Thank you for being here. There will be better days.
Yeah, there will be. All right. Have a great rest of your night, Mark.
Thanks, Will. All right, let's keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. I want to remind everyone, when you shop Amazon, and I say when because most of you do all the time. Not all of you, I get it. There's some of you, as soon as I say that out there, that are like, I never shop on Amazon. And of course, some of you don't. But half of America shops on Amazon every month. That's crazy. 160 million people every month. Okay, when you do, use the link in the description section. It will help us build the channel. All right, next up, we got Tide Guy.
Hey, Mark, how we doing today?
I am doing great. How are you?
Well, after the major heart attack earlier in the day, I'm doing all right.
Well, that was more exciting than I anticipated, that's for sure. I was way off on that one.
Well, I told you yesterday that we wasn't gonna cover the 20, but I thought we'd win by 10 or 14 easy.
Yeah. That was a great game. Now, if Texas can come out with that kind of... Now, of course, they're not going to come out with that level of intensity, but close to it. If they can maintain a level of consistency off of that performance, they could win the Big 12. If they're that good, and of course they are, they show their potential, and that's with quarterbacks out and hobbling, then they should be able to compete for the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, that Texas team today, I think it would come down to them and Baylor. I think if Texas, like you said, if they play with that intensity, they play that style, I think they beat everybody. Maybe Baylor would give them a problem. That would be the only concern I would have for Texas. And to kind of follow up on the Big Ten, it really was a bad day for the Big Ten today.
Yep.
Northwestern, who'd they lose to? Duke?
Yeah.
That Big Ten West, except for Minnesota, who scored over 60 points, all the other teams, they kind of struggled today pretty bad.
Yeah, except Purdue. But yeah, they did. Yeah. Well, Illinois did not. Illinois came up with a big win against Virginia.
They beat Virginia, didn't they?
They took one of the best offenses in college football and shut it down to 3 points. Or I don't know what the final was. It was 21-3 late in the game. So that's a bit surprising. But yeah, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska. Yeah.
I'm thinking, though, like with realignment with these teams, if you realign Nebraska's offense with Iowa's defense, I think they could compete for the West.
Yeah, well, if I'm Iowa's defense, we could certainly do better than Nebraska's offense because they're fairly productive, but they tend to shoot themselves in the foot. But maybe with better coaches, although Iowa's offensive coaches, not good. Not good.
Now, another one I wanted to bring up is, who do you think gets fired first? I think Frost is done after the October 1st game. Do you think Neil Brown from West Virginia, he gets fired before that, seeing that they're 0-2 and they lost pretty bad today to Kansas?
Well, when you say pretty bad, yeah, it's pretty bad losing to Kansas. They lost in overtime, so they didn't get – the game was in overtime, so –
yeah, but you lose by 2 scores in overtime. That's hard to do.
Well, yeah, but the game went to overtime. Anyway,
right.
Yeah, this is all a guessing game. We're not privy to administrators and what they're talking about and what their level of tolerance is. But Neil Brown's had a pretty bad tenure at West Virginia even before this year. If you really look back on West Virginia football coaches and what they achieved there, it's far better than what Neil Brown has produced. He's like 4 games under 500.
Right. Yeah, no, and I was just curious, I don't think West Virginia will give it too much long. If he doesn't win the next 2 or, 2 out of 3, I think he'll be gone also.
But there's certainly no shame in that first game they lost.
No, Pitt, that was a respectable loss.
Yeah, Pitt's a good team. It was on the road. I know it's a close game, so it's not a true road game, but they were playing in another team's stadium, and they came within a fraction of an inch of winning.
Right. Yeah. Because if it wasn't for the pick,
overtime.
Right. Right. Now, the other thing I want to say is anybody out there who is not a Patreon member, please, it's $5 a month. It's the best $5 you'll pay. You'll get all of Mark's picks, plus us knuckleheads. We are on calls all the time. We were on calls during the Alabama-Texas game today. We're going to do calls tonight. It really is the best $5 a month you could spend.
Tide Guy, I appreciate that. And I just have fun being able to call people knuckleheads. So that's but I'm allowed. I've been given permission.
Exactly. But I'm going to let you go because I'm going to go check out all your other shows. I'm going to check out the Ducks post game and Michigan's post game. I'm going to go in and make an appearance with all of them. But you have a great night, and I will try to hop back on and listen to you a little bit more.
And that Nebraska post game should be something else too.
Yeah,
thanks,
that
Tide Guy. I appreciate it.
Have a great night. Bye.
You too. Voice of College Football here. And again, appreciate the plug by Tide Guy. Join our Discord. So what you do is you go to Patreon, search MarkRogersTV, sign up there, and I get you the Discord link so you can go in there. And then that link gets you into the Discord chat all the time. It's good to go. And if you ever have any issues, you just email me and we get it straightened out. But that should get you all set for the rest of eternity. There is such a thing here on earth. The rest of eternity for the Discord. Plus you get my picks, which I'll add them up here in a second. I did not have a raving start to today, that's for sure. But we've notched a few wins. I don't know what today's record was. 13-8 against the spread last week. That certainly will earn you plenty of cash. Not that that's why I'm posting picks, but then you get the Steve Merrill under the radar selection, which, he took Army, and I think he came out with a push because Army was a 3-point underdog. All right, let's keep it moving here. The voice of college football. J-Dub's on the line. J-Dub, how you doing?
Hey, just fine, Mark. I am dried off from the rain at Kinnick. And
nice.
What an amazing display of ineptitude that I saw today. Just to further explain how bad the Iowa offense is, they had a 15-yard pass, an 11-yard pass, and an 11-yard run. Those were the three biggest offensive plays of the game.
Yeah, I saw them.
Iowa State, Troy Taylor is the best punter in the country. And he kept putting them in the coffin corner. And he had them down on the foot line, one foot from the end zone. And Iowa State went on a 99-yard, 21-play, nearly 12-minute long drive.
I missed that. Huh.
99 yards in 21 plays, almost 12 minutes off the clock. At one point, Iowa State had run 34 offensive plays in the second half to 6 for Iowa. So the Iowa defense just simply got exhausted. They couldn't get off the field.
Okay, so that was the touchdown that made it 10-7. Gotcha.
Yep, that was the touchdown. And then it still came down to a chance for Iowa to possibly force overtime, and the kid just missed the kick. But just unbelievable. I've 3 decades I've been on the sidelines of Big 12, Big 8, and Big 10 football, and I can't tell you the last time I've seen a unit where there's really no excuse. I don't know how they live with themselves.
Well, it comes down to the coaches. They're responsible ultimately for the offense. They recruit the players, they sign the players, they develop the players, they choose which ones are in the starting lineup, and then they build a scheme, and then they need to adjust during the game to what the defense is doing, and they apparently have done none of those things correctly.
It's it's a disaster. It's an embarrassment. You're supposed to be a Big Ten level program, and this is what you're putting on the field. And I'm glad that you brought up the Illinois-Virginia game. That might have been the best game anybody in the because of who they were playing, Purdue and Minnesota. I'm kind of ignoring them, but the Illinois win was the best win by the Big Ten West today. Very quietly, Bielema might have built himself a little 6-6, a little 7-5 team over in Champaign, because with Armstrong and that's not a bad Virginia team.
No,
I mean they're not an incompetent offense.
No,
And
they're one of the best offenses in college football last year.
Yeah, and the Illini decided for the first time this season that they could actually throw a forward pass, and 24-3 in Champaign. I was very surprised by that result, especially when you consider, as you mentioned earlier, what happened in the rest of the Big Ten West. It was not a good day.
Yeah, and Illinois should have beat Indiana last week. They should have won that game. They had that game in their back pocket, and they let it go. And I see Chase Brown, who had 199 yards last week and 50, 60, whatever the number was the week before. He was the first Illinois back in history to gain 150-plus yards the first two games of the season. Had 146 today. And like you mentioned, Tommy DeVito, a decent day, 2 touchdown passes, 17 for 25.
I think, of course, I'm a Bama grad. I'm not convinced at all that the team that showed up today wearing crimson helmets was actually Alabama's team. They might have had a few of the players, but I think the rest of the guys were imposters. That in all the years under Saban, that was one of the most lackluster efforts I think I've ever seen. And I don't want to take a thing away from Texas, who impressed me mightily. I just think this was about as big an egg as Alabama could lay. 15 turnovers, or 15 penalties, not 15 turnovers. But can you tell me, does your pillow get any cooler on the other side than Bryce Young?
He's pretty good. He's pretty good in the clutch. I do think that the Texas corner, Ryan Watts, could have settled the score and ended the game had he wrapped up on a sack on the last drive. That game probably would have been over.
Yes.
I was just mentioning this on our Miami show the other night. I said, you know what irks me? I was saying to the Wholesome One, I said, is these blitz packages, and when a blitzer comes through unabated through the line of scrimmage, and they're coming so fast, they run right by the quarterback. They just kind of spin around them and spin off of them. Happens constantly. They don't break down and make the tackle. That's exactly what Ryan Watts did. Came off the corner. He had a clear shot at Bryce Young. He spun right off of him. Bryce Young goes prancing down the sideline for like 30 yards, and he would have had him down at like the 50 with like 15 seconds left.
Yeah, that probably would have been it. Yep.
But, yeah, Bryce Young, I don't want to take away from him because the last touchdown he threw was a thing of beauty.
Well, and the one thing that I take away from this as a Bama fan, and I see all sorts of issues all over the place for the Tide. I see weaknesses just about everywhere. But good teams can bring their C game and survive. Last year, they ran for nothing and beat LSU. Last year, they gave up 7 sacks, did 0 for 59 minutes, and still managed to beat Auburn. This year, they looked terrible and still managed to beat Texas. It's still a W. It's got to be frustrating. They've got to be the hardest team to kill.
I would agree.
And one last thing before we go, you already mentioned, you put my plug in for me. You stole my thunder with the Amazon link. But I just cannot, I'm sorry, I apologize in advance. I can't let it go. Hey, Jimbo, how'd that taste today? That was beautiful. 106,000 people leaving Kyle Field going, what just happened? That was beautiful. Well, I'll get out of here. I know there's got to be a mile-long list of people trying to get in. But
there was at one time, but they're pretty impatient. But we've got a few. So
but it's crazy. If we think this is the last week we're going to see crazy things, God only knows what we'll see next week. It's just the beginning.
Yep.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, J-Dub.
Yep.
All right, Mike, appreciate the super chat contribution there. People think Marcus Freeman will be better for the brand in recruiting. Brian Kelly is undeniably the better coach in the honeymoon. Yep, I certainly believe that that Brian Kelly's a top 5 to 10 coach in the country. Notre Dame fans were tired of losing big games on the big stage and getting pushed around in recruiting by Alabama and Ohio State and others. So Marcus Freeman has made inroads in recruiting, although Brian Kelly's last few classes, his last really 5 or 6 classes, they continued to get better and better and better and better. And his team started to perform better and better on the big stage, not win the games, but perform better. So Brian Kelly's a known commodity. Marcus Freeman is an unknown commodity. So we're just witnessing the very beginning of a career at Notre Dame. The real MVP's on the line. How's
Hello, Mark. Tonight? How are you doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
I mean, Kentucky played maybe their D minus game.
D minus.
Yo, yeah.
They played a D minus game and they beat Florida by 10.
Yeah.
Well, I don't agree with that, but
we don't have our best player, Chris Rodriguez. So that takes it a letter grade right there. You have 3 points given because of terrible snaps.
Team, but
that's a few letter grades right there as well. And they still found a way to win. This is what great teams do. And you know, Mark, when your poll comes out, the top 25, that makes sense. It's going to be fun seeing Kentucky ahead of Notre Dame, ahead of Ohio State, maybe even ahead of the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Kentucky ahead of Ohio State.
Notre Dame lost. They lost. I mean, they just beat a winless team in Arkansas State. Kentucky beat a team that beat Utah.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay.
Now, maybe the Alabama one I'm going a little too, hyped on a bit.
Yeah,
but
Kentucky just beat Texas.
Yeah, but Kentucky just beat the 12th Florida team that beat Utah in the same location on the road, and did it by a much more convincing standard than Alabama.
Yeah, I'll weigh it all out. They're going to be high. They're going to be awfully high.
Well, I mean, I saw a lot of good things because in college football, you have to win ugly at times. And against Florida, a team Kentucky has clearly had a mental block against. We did it after missing a field goal as well. I forgot about that. We missed some 38-yard field goal of 7. I thought, oh, Lord, the curse is back. The curse of 31 is back, Mark. But no, we got a 3-and-out or maybe a 4-and-out because they went for it on their own 25-yard line. And, I'm looking pretty far ahead. And Georgia's got to come to Kentucky. I'm not saying we're beating Georgia, but I'm saying maybe that game's for the East. You think that game could be for the East?
Oh, I believe so. Tennessee's going to have something to say about that, but I think that is clearly the most important game. Yeah.
Now I talked about my team for a bit. Let me talk about the other. The most embarrassing loss of today was who?
Ooh, that's a great question because it was a day of embarrassing losses. So Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Let me see. Is anybody else in this mix?
West Virginia lost to Kansas.
West Virginia lost to Kansas. I don't necessarily know. After the way Kansas played down the stretch last year, beat Texas, stayed within like 3 or 4 points of West Virginia and some other teams. That
Georgia Southern beat Nebraska.
Know if Kansas is that much below West Virginia. We have our West Virginia show here on Friday night, and my West Virginia contingent, they were so high on West Virginia, and I was getting all these 10-2 kind of predictions. And I was like, boys, settle down. Settle down. 6-6. West Virginia lost to Kansas. On face value, that is an embarrassing loss. But Texas A&M, App State. Oh man, I can't separate the Notre Dame loss to Marshall and Texas A&M to App State. I can't really separate that. It is a tie. And then you've got Nebraska, and we know Nebraska is nowhere close to Texas A&M or Notre Dame. They've sucked for 5 years. They haven't really been that good for even 5 years before that. But still, it's Nebraska. It's the brand. And Georgia Southern beat them. Yes, those three. For different reasons. But that's a mighty... usually we get one of those kind of games, maybe in a week, maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks, actually. We got 3 in one day from teams that should be. Now, I don't want to insult the players. The players are 20 years old, and they go out there and do their best for the most part and all that. But from a program standpoint, it's embarrassing.
Okay. The Big Ten has had the worst conference day since.
Well, I don't have every week logged that they play.
Is there a week that was just so atrocious for the Big Ten that just stands out being like, this.
Sure, they've had. Again, my memory doesn't work like that. But sure, they've had all sorts of weeks worse than with this week. Yes. Oh, they've had worse weeks. But there were 3. I don't want to call Iowa State. That's not. I don't know that it's a bad loss. Iowa can't beat them every year, and Iowa State's a respectable program. That's not that atrocious. The Nebraska, again, that's just a continuance of Nebraska being just a complete dumpster fire.
Washington State versus Wisconsin was shocking.
Yeah, pretty shocking. Although I had a hunch on that one. I probably should have went through with I had a hunch on 3 of these games. And it was Northwestern and Duke. And in all 3 games, I didn't even blink and I took the points. I didn't even think about it. And I took the points. But I actually thought about taking the underdogs to win the games. And one was Washington State and Wisconsin. One was App State and Texas A&M. And one was Northwestern and Duke. Duke, for some reason, they just show up against Northwestern. Now they've beaten them, I think, 5 out of 6 times. Even when I don't think any of those years they've been the better team. They beat them. Yeah. Not a good day for the Big Ten. No, they may drop in my conference rankings because, again, I do think it's the second best conference. I'm not going to, in my mind, I'm not going to think much differently about the conference just based on 3 games. But being fair in adding up the results, I got to be fair, and they may take a plummet.
I said before the season, Texas A&M would finish unranked.
Yes,
That prediction's looking pretty good right now.
Yep.
Is Jimbo Fisher on the hot seat?
I would have thought that would not have been possible because of the money invested and because of the recruiting, but I have to think they're pretty impatient. And they've given him 5 years now. So let's say your prediction comes true and they go 7-6 or 8-5. They've got deep pockets in Texas. And if they think, okay, you know what, it's going to cost us $25 million to get rid of him. Let's do it. We're tired of this.
The thing with App State that shocked me is the way they beat Texas A&M. They gave up 1,000,001 points, it felt like, last week to North Carolina. And they only gave up 14 against Texas A&M.
Yes. And they really only gave up 7. There was a kickoff return.
Texas A&M's offense just that bad?
They scored 1 touchdown.
Yeah. Ooh, that's...
Yeah. Oh, it's and on top of that, Jimbo Fisher is an offensive guy. He's supposed to be the guy that knows how to develop quarterbacks, and he's a play caller, and he's supposed to be an offensive guy, and the offense is no good. The offense was no good last year. He doesn't develop good quarterbacks. He doesn't develop wide receivers. They've recruited like top 25 wide receivers all over the place, and none of them are any good. They don't do anything. Anaya Smith aside, who's a good little player. But for since he stepped on campus, he's recruited almost every position through the roof, and they've only had a good defense and good offensive lines most of the time. That's what they've had.
Should we as college football fans accept that Alabama's going to be in a lot more one-score games than previously thought before?
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? They should have lost that game.
I could have said that about 4 or 5 games last year, Mark.
Yeah. I do wish Quinn Ewers would have stayed in the game, and he was just playing so well. And Hudson Card played well. But Ewers he showed his arm talent. He showed why he's supposed to be what he's supposed to be. I was utterly impressed. Yeah, Alabama's got a mystique. They just figure out a way to get it done, even when they're not dominant. But it looks like some of the issues they had last year, i.e. offensive line, that early in the game, it looked like they solved, and it looked like they solved last week. They didn't necessarily solve because after the first couple drives, they couldn't run the ball, and they couldn't pass protect. And their secondary got chewed up.
I wasn't impressed by Alabama's wide receivers either. They underperformed.
No, they're not. Jerry Jeudy and John Mechie and Jamison Williams and all of those guys. No.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. Yeah. I'm sure they're individually great compared to college football, but when you compare them to Alabama, that they're not at the level they should be.
If they were at South Carolina, then we'd be saying, they've got a good wide receiver core.
Is BYU the best independent school currently?
Yes. They are playing a tie game or close to a tie game with Baylor. So this is enough for me as someone who we've had our BYU discussions and conversations throughout the offseason. Now they're playing their first big boy football. Who they beat? They terrorized South Florida last week, by 5 touchdowns. And now it's Baylor. So this is good enough to prove it to me. And they're missing their 2 top wide receivers. Yeah,
they're
13-10 game, third quarter. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a legit game against the Big 12 champion. I mean, that's really impressive. Your prediction of the top 5 AP poll Monday is?
Oh, you're forcing me to get into the mind of an AP pollster. Georgia's 1.
It's hard after 1, isn't it?
They better make Georgia 1
Yeah.
after that Alabama performance. I think they'll go with the Notre Dame result may affect Ohio State. It probably should. That's fair. Alabama 2, Ohio State 3. Then who do we have? Who do we have?
There's a team in Lexington. They just beat this team called Florida. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, but you're asking me to vote like an AP. I got to look at last week's. You know how they do it. What was last week's? It doesn't matter that Kentucky should be somewhere else. They're going to look at last week's and just, okay, well, Kentucky wasn't ranked, right? Last week?
No, we're 20.
20. Oh, so that's a nice win. That might get you to like 13.
That's Florida jumped from unranked to 12, so I'm hoping we get ahead. Kentucky gets ahead of
all right,
Utah and Florida. Hopefully top 10, maybe 11.
Let's look at this ridiculous AP. I'll tell you what they're going to vote this week. And man, I wish all of you people out there, if you ever see anyone who makes a comment that criticizes my top 25, and I'm not adverse to criticism about like, okay, Mark, why'd you do that? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that's what I want. But the people that call me an idiot and all those other things, please, if you know any of those people, please have them call the show. That's what I want. I pled and begged for those people to call. Everybody that left a comment saying I was an idiot, I was a moron, I said, call the call-in show. Here, I responded to all of them. Call the next call-in show. Talk to me directly. Don't be a coward. Call me directly. But those people don't call. Michigan's going to be up there, after their big win against Hawaii. Kentucky's not going to jump Michigan. That's not going to happen in the AP poll.
That's true.
I think we've got our 5. We've got our 5. It's going to go Georgia 1, Alabama 2, Ohio State 3, Michigan 4, Clemson 5. There's your 5.
Okay. The playoffs right now, if you had to select the 4 teams.
Ooh.
I'll give you mine. I think Georgia, Southern Cal, Michigan should all be in there.
Oh, if we stopped the season?
Or / projecting forward.
Okay, I'm projecting forward. If we stop the season, then I may put Kentucky in the playoff.
I'm projecting forward. That Georgia, Southern Cal, Michigan. And you know what? Miami, as that 4th seed, man, Miami's looking pretty good. Clemson only scored 35 against Furman.
Well, Miami's looking good for you based on other teams' incompetency, not based on what they're doing.
I got to find the 4 spot somehow, Mark. So
Miami was practically losing to Southern Miss at halftime today. Let's not get too excited. I'm going to go Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Well, Mark, I think that's all I got for you on this crazy, wacky day. I see you've got that Kentucky helmet behind Texas A&M.
Well, what we were spotlighting, you might have missed my comment. I was spotlighting the teams of shame.
Why is Kentucky a team of shame?
Well, no. In the front row here.
Oh, okay. I saw Florida in the back as well.
Yeah, those are the teams of shame today that lost as big favorites. I don't have a who else lost as a
West Virginia lost.
West Virginia. I don't have one of their helmets. So those are the teams. Now let's get them out of the way. Let's go with the teams of the day. Teams of the day. Yes, we're going to put Kentucky up there, and who else would be a 2-1, a really good game? Tennessee had a nice win. We'll put them up there. Keep them back there. One other team that we can give. I don't want to give it to USC because they played Stanford, and Stanford still sucks. We're going to go with Bama. Bama did win a big game. They did beat a good team, even though they were not impressive. Yeah, I don't see anybody else here that really. Well, the other team of shame I should have put up there was our favorite. This is unbelievable. This can't get any. Just when we all don't think it can get any worse. They were a 24-point favorite today.
Does he become the? And he lost to Clay Helton.
Yes. I don't think that this team would win a group of 5 conference. None of them. I don't think that they would win any of them. It's unbelievable. This is a joke. This program is a joke.
Could they ever win a national title again?
Like the people that ask that question, like it's like win a game against a decent team in the Big Ten. Like do that once before we even talk about you. Like going to a bowl game. Go to a bowl game. 82 teams go to a bowl game. You can't even make it to a bowl game. And they're still, yeah, sometimes Nebraska fans, and I love them because we got a Nebraska channel and a Nebraska show, and they support it and they show up and everything. But they talk every week about when do you think we're going to be back in as a national championship team? And it's like, go to a bowl game. Go to the worst Big Ten bowl game, the Motor City Bowl, whatever it is called now, the Quick Lane Bowl. Go to that first.
Oh, my goodness. That was a great rant, Mark. And the final thing I guess I'll say is Notre Dame did figure out their problems of losing in big games. If you don't play in a big game, you can't lose in one. So they solved their problem.
You must be having a field day right now because, Kentucky just had a nice win. They're off to a 2-0 start. And some of your favorite whipping boys, Notre Dame, the Pac-12.
No, the Pac-12 looked good. The Pac-12 is probably the 4th best conference.
What did the Pac-12 do today that was any good?
USC looked good.
Against Stanford, against another Pac-12 team.
How good did they look last year against Stanford?
What did the Pac-12 do today? They've got a chance right now. Arizona's playing Mississippi State. If Arizona beats Mississippi State, that will show me something about the Pac-12. Or if
Arizona's being competitive.
They are being competitive. They don't even have to win this game if they stay competitive. But my money's on Mississippi State pulling away in the second half.
And Boston College got destroyed by Virginia Tech, who lost to Old Dominion, who lost to East Carolina in a blowout. The bottom of the ACC is just so horrendous that it's So that's partially why the Pac-12 gets a little bit notch above the ACC right now.
Maybe I'll have to really grind that one out. Oregon State. Yeah, we're gonna have to see a little bit more out of the. I wonder if is BYU playing any more teams in the Pac-12?
They play Oregon next week.
Okay. Yeah, they'll probably beat them down.
Well, I'll see you, Mark. That's all I got for you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Good night.
Yeah. Go Cats.
Let's keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. But first of all, Dustin Miller, who's called us on a regular basis here recently. I don't know where Dustin found us because, bam, all of a sudden he just started calling. So we appreciate that, Dustin. Thank you so much for the contribution. Yes, us knuckleheads. Knuckleheads is one of my go-to terms. So I'm glad that these guys have embraced it because that just flies out of my mouth almost as much as ignorant and pathetic do and moronic. But knuckleheads, that's an endearing term in this case. Yes, us knuckleheads will be up all night. Good Lord. Join Mark's Patreon. Again, patreon.com. Search MarkRogersTV. I'll try to monitor. And if just for anybody that joins tonight so I can get you the Discord link. I've been on all day in live chat with some great fans from all over. And the more fans we get, the more lively the discussion and the more specific you can be in the discussion. Because let's say you're an Oklahoma fan. Let's say we got 10 Oklahoma fans in the Discord. If we get 20, if we get 50, we get 100, then we'll have an Oklahoma channel. We'll have when I say channel, that means chat there. That's what they call them, channels. That kind of confuses me and other people, I'm sure. Any other super chats I need to hit on? I don't believe so. All right. Next up is Michael. Michael and the Boilers, of course, won today against Indiana State.
Yeah. How you doing tonight, Mark?
I'm doing just fine. It was a great day of college football. How are you?
Yeah, very crazy day. Hey, I got a question. I didn't get a chance to see the actual play, but I seen the highlight. Why was it that not a safety in the Bama Texas game? He was tackled in the end zone.
Yes, the only answer I received, because I asked the same question, was that when Bryce Young threw the ball, it glanced off the helmet of a Texas defender. Therefore, he touched the ball before it landed. It's horrible. That should be. I typically hate rules that give judgment calls to the officials, but this is a case in which there should be a judgment call, and the judgment call should be there's no way that that ball would have landed past the line of scrimmage. Therefore, it's a safety.
No. And if I'm not mistaken, what did the SEC officials or was it Big 12? Because usually when you go on a road, like whoever conference, like next week when Purdue goes to Syracuse, for example, most likely it'll be a Big Ten crew.
I thought they changed that rule a few different times, and that's a great question. Let's see. I'm going to look that up because I don't have the answer for sure. But at one point, it was exactly the way you just described it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I feel so bad for that long snapper for Texas tonight, man.
Yeah.
Not bad, though. But I would say Kentucky, they was decent tonight against Florida and stuff like that. But I would say this. Iowa, are they a 3 or 4 win team this year? Like I said to you last week.
3 or 4 wins?
Yeah.
I don't believe so. But
because that defense, if they can play offense, they'll be running the table like that. They have no offense. I can get me, you, and 9 other people to play better offense than them.
Pretty much. We could figure something out.
Mm-hmm.
It's awful. It's almost as bad as anything I've seen in Power 5 football. Yes.
But didn't you call the Wisconsin upset earlier this week, though?
I lean toward it. I'm not going to profess that I called it because I didn't. I certainly took the points. But I did have that gut instinct that Washington State would pull that out.
Mm-hmm. And then was Notre Dame losing and stuff like that. Now we don't have to hear about the Notre Dame fans crying, "Oh, we're gonna make the playoffs." No, you're not. Not this year. Sorry. But no. And another thing too, Mark. Everybody kept telling you me exactly and stuff like that. I thought they was gonna be 6-6 this year. Was Nebraska? Nah, I'm sorry. They're not gonna be a good team and stuff like that. But no. How impressed is Appalachian State? And right now, if they would be to release a group of 6, would they be in the New Year's Six Bowl, in your opinion?
If they win the Sun Belt Conference Championship?
No, if they just released everything today. Like the playoffs and the New Year's Six Bowls.
Is there a reason to ask that question, Michael? We've played 2 games. Why would we even consider what would happen if the season ended today? They've played 2 games.
Yeah.
Is there a reason to do that?
Just, I guess, they're fun to watch and stuff like that. All right, here's another thing. I'm going to rank this Big Ten teams from the West and start and stuff like that. See what you think. I'm going to have Minnesota number 1, Purdue 2, Illinois 3, Wisconsin 4, Northwestern 5, Iowa 6, Nebraska 7.
Okay, based on the results on the field and the scoreboard, I would agree with you at the top. But you know what? I'm gonna make your night, and I'm gonna say that actually I would rank Purdue number 1.
Okay, Morgan's looking good, and that does help him and stuff like that, though. But I think it's gonna be a 2-team race for the Big Ten West, both Minnesota and Purdue.
Well, let's not again jump the gun, Michael. Just because teams lost out of conference games, I would not count out Wisconsin in particular.
Yeah, but I said I can't. did not see your predictions video about Wisconsin this year, but I had them going around 7-5 or 8-4 this year myself, with 2 losses coming both to Minnesota and to Purdue.
And you're predicting Purdue to win the Big Ten Western Division, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
If they can get past Minnesota, which they've had trouble with the last 3 years. And stuff like that. But there was a couple questionable calls and stuff like that. So,
well, it was a bad day for the division.
Yes. And I see that Ohio State, well, yeah, it was Arkansas State stuff, but I was very impressed with Marvin Harrison Jr. today.
Yeah. I got to say, this is one of the few times in my life that I did not watch the Ohio State game. I do what I do here, and I want to present the best content possible, and the best content is not me watching Ohio State sleepwalk through a game against Arkansas State when there are so many other good games going on. So I did not watch one play of that. Like, I saw like maybe 2 highlights.
Mm-hmm.
So
did you get the chance to watch did you watch most of the Tennessee game, or did you watch?
Yes.
And what about the Wake Forest game?
I try to watch about 3 games all the time. And Tennessee-Pitt was one of the games I wanted to see. Yes, I saw most of it.
Which one, Tennessee or Wake Forest?
Not the Wake Forest game. No, Tennessee.
Right. No, because I seen they won convincingly over Vanderbilt. But I just wanted to know if you knew how Pittman did. I mean, not Pittman, but Hartman.
Oh, he did great. The last I saw, he had barely threw an incompletion and 4 touchdown passes. So
kind of like what McCarthy did tonight.
I don't know. I have no idea. I did not see one play of the Michigan game.
Yeah, I mean, at one point he was like only had 1 incomplete pass at one point.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. So, no, I was wondering, but I wish there was a way you could do the top 25 games tonight instead of making us wait till tomorrow.
Well, we still have Mississippi State and Arizona playing. We still have Oregon State playing.
Oh, speaking of which, what did Arizona State do with the Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma State won 34-17.
Was it? So I see they came back. In Oregon State, I can't remember who they're playing right now.
They got Fresno State on the road.
And is that a decent game so far? Or?
I don't know, and I wish I knew what network it was on, because
I think that's CBS.
I would DVR it right now. Where do you think it is?
The CBS Sports Network.
Oh, yeah. Where the heck is that? I'll find it here on my little handy dandy cable lineup here.
Yeah, your cable flip card. I bet. So how's Arizona State looking against Mississippi State right now?
They're only losing 18-10. There's a few seconds left in the first half, and they're driving.
So 18-10. Did they give up a safety or something, or has it been all field goals from Mississippi State?
Mississippi State, I believe all those have been field goal. No, they might have went for 2. I think they went for 2. They kicked 2 field goals to get to 6. They scored a touchdown to get to 12. They went for 2, and then they kicked 2 more field goals.
Okay. So Arizona's defense is hanging in there, but do you expect them to hang around and sit, or do you see the Bulldogs pulling away in the second half?
Mississippi State's going to pull away.
Mm-hmm. Not bad.
Yeah.
Nope. I was just wondering and stuff like that. But no, did you see any other games that I might have missed that you thought was decent today?
That had a good defense today?
Decent good game
today? Decent games?
Yeah.
Oh, I got to think we pretty much covered it. Decent games. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you go because I know you got a couple other people behind you and stuff like that. And stuff. So are you going to stay through the late games, or are you going to take a break and then come back? We'll still go final.
I'm going to be here as long as people call me and talk. By the way, Fresno State's up on Oregon State 16-14 in the third. That looks like a pretty good game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Michael.
All right. See you soon, man. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you so much. All right, let's keep it working here. We got Jeffrey on the line here, the voice of college football. Jeffrey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. first order of business. Indiana struggled hard against Idaho. I don't know if you're keeping up with the score, but they were down 10-0.
Yeah, barely.
And
I saw 35-22 at one point.
They did win 35-22, but are they going to still be in the top 25? That actually makes sense. They were 16
Indiana,
last
after
week.
that performance, I do not believe so, considering that there are other teams that played better teams, and it's all about the resume. And the resume of Illinois, which that win is improved. It's underlined after Illinois' performance today. But
and Idaho only lost by 7 to Washington State, which just beat Wisconsin.
That's a good point. That's a good point. All that factors in. So that's a possibility.
Yeah, it's funny because Indiana, I saw a tweet. Someone said that Indiana is the only 2-0 team in the state of Indiana. They're the best team in the state. I don't know about that, but it's kind of funny. I'd check that off. Number 2, Scott Frost, man. What else does he got to do to get fired? I thought that when he played Indiana after the Oklahoma game, I thought they were going to lose to Oklahoma and then maybe lose to Indiana, and that might be what does it, but how do you continue to keep his head coach? I don't see it. I just don't.
Well, he's not winning next week. I just don't see that happening. So he's going to drop to 1-3 with a nondescript win against an FCS team. Yeah, it's they were a huge favorite today, and it's unbelievable. I don't know what to tell you. He is going to get fired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a joke, like you said earlier. They're a joke, man. It's the sickest thing I've ever seen. Next game I got, because I got a lot, so I'm trying to go really quick because I know you got other people.
I'm with you.
Alabama. How much? My dad, again, as I've said before, is a big Alabama fan, and all I know is he was freaking out in this game. But how much could Texas do to not win the game? Texas had it. I mean, if Ewers stays healthy, if he's able, they're gonna win. I told Dad that.
Yeah.
My dad was like, "Oh, you don't know about that. Quinn Ewers Quinn Ewers would have beaten. Well, they would have won probably about 14."
I agree with your dad that we don't know that.
I agree,
but we can make a logical conclusion that yes, if Quinn Ewers stayed in the game, that Texas would have won the game.
And I do agree that was a safety. And the field goal. I mean, Texas should have won. I mean, they should have won. I saw a comment in the chat talking about how Alabama's receivers aren't as good. I just don't think Alabama's right now is good, but that's why these early games are tough, because remember last year Alabama didn't lose, but almost lost at Florida last year. And again, then they returned around.
LSU and Auburn. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is, but man, Texas should have won. I feel bad for Texas fans. Next, I got, do you think Texas A&M losing to Appalachian State was a bigger surprise, or Notre Dame losing to Marshall?
Somebody else asked me that question.
I did not hear that. Sorry.
I could not separate the two. Well, they asked it this way. They just said, what are the two most surprising, or however they phrased it, shameful losses of the day? And I could not separate Notre Dame and Texas A&M for different varying reasons. I just really can't separate those two.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't know someone asked a similar question, but I would say on most shameful, I would still go with Nebraska, just because how bad it is. I mean, you lose to Northwestern, you think they'd have played harder, but that's crazy. Do you agree that UNC is the worst 3-0 football team?
Well, before I answer that question,
worst undefeated team anyway.
Jeffrey, before I answer that question, I'm going to let you know that you inspired me to change the name of my video. I posted the Alabama-Texas instant analysis, but I'm just going to rename it Texas Should Have Won. There it is. All right. The worst undefeated team in the country, NC State. Are you talking about a Power 5 team, of course?
Well, I was talking about North Carolina being the worst, but NC State too. But I would say North Carolina is. Do you agree is the worst team that's undefeated right now? I mean, they just are. There've
got to be other teams that are undefeated. I still have to think that Kansas is worse than either one of those teams.
Well, I mean, I guess I didn't really word it right, but they've just been very disappointing, because in all three of the games they've played bad teams, and they should have won by a lot more, and they're not playing good.
I find it.
I mean, I know Appalachian State just beat Texas A&M. I get that, but they still just putting up, not stopping teams at all.
Well, it does make North Carolina's performance against App State look much better that they're able to turn around and go to Kyle Field and beat one of the more talented teams in the country. I find it interesting that North Carolina chose to open its season by going on the road to App State and going on the road to Georgia State.
Yeah, I don't understand why they would do that either, because usually you don't play. I thought it was weird Indiana played at Western Kentucky last year. I just thought that was kind of bizarre. But yeah, North Carolina's just strange anyway. I mean, you give up 61 to Appalachian State, and then Texas A&M only gives them 17. It's like that's the difference in defense. That's how bad they're. But I mean, they can score. I mean, putting up 63, so I guess. But
well, think of it from the Texas A&M standpoint that their offense is facing a defense that just gave up 63 points, and they only scored 7 on offense.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Jimbo is in the category of he's getting paid a lot of money and there's no results. It's unbelievable. I know the Mississippi State loss made a lot of Texas A&M fans mad last year when they beat Alabama and then they lost next week. But man, Appalachian State, that's a new low. I had no idea that was going to happen. I mean, obviously nobody did, but I mean how? How do you lose?
It's stupid of me to mention this because I didn't pull the trigger on either 3 of these games, but I had a hunch, and so since I had a hunch, I immediately took App State in the points. Washington State in the points and Marshall in the points. Well, I didn't have a feeling about Marshall and Notre Dame. The 3 games I had a feeling about was Washington State and Wisconsin, App State and Texas A&M, and there was a third one out there, and I can't remember it now. There was a third upset pick that I had. Oh, Northwestern and Duke. Duke always beats Northwestern for some reason.
Yeah, that's kind of – that makes you see how even worse Nebraska is that Duke beat them. And yeah, that Duke beat Northwestern. That's just terrible. And the last thing, and I'll go, but, I mean, this is not really a comparing the two because they both were horrible on offense, but Iowa and Wisconsin just sucked on offense. That's all you can say, especially Iowa. I picked Iowa State to win the other day in the chat, and I made a video on my channel about it. Yeah, and everybody was disking me. It's like, how could you pick Iowa State? They haven't won. I'm like, Iowa couldn't score, and it's like, dude, I just can't believe people don't understand that Iowa's offense is worse than ever before. And I'm sorry, but I know a lot of people blame Spencer Petras, but he's not great. But I don't think Kirk Ferentz' son can coach offense. He can coach the tight end position, but he can't coach offense.
No,
he just can't. He's terrible. His offense is 1980s, and I don't understand. Like, you're not going to have that defensive coordinator forever. If you had a good offense right now, Iowa could maybe, I'm not saying make the playoff, but the defense is that good, but they can't score. It's terrible.
So, Jeffrey, everybody's got a YouTube channel now. So you've got a YouTube channel as well. So you just talk college football over there?
I do college football and college basketball sometimes, but mostly college football. Maybe a pro video every now and then, but mostly college football. I'm not trying to replace you or nothing. I just love talking about it. I love watching the games. I have a lot of opinions on it. So your content's way better.
I have absolutely no issue with it whatsoever. People can do whatever they want. Absolutely. I was just curious because you just mentioned that you've got a channel, so that's great. That is great. Anything else?
I don't really have anything else, but thanks for having me. I love coming on. It's so funny because every day on Saturday I watch these games and I gotta go to church, and it's just like I'm so tired, but it's worth it. It's just so worth it, man. It was a great Saturday, a lot of great games, and I can't wait for week 3.
Well, Jeffrey, I'll tell you this: that for years and years and years and years, I worked at ESPN and I worked on Saturday until I finally got a Friday, Saturday off, which was perfect for me. But for years and years and years, I worked at ESPN. I worked Saturday and I worked until 4 a.m. So I didn't go to bed till like 5 a.m. because I worked till 4 a.m. and drive home like 45 minutes. And I got up at whatever time it was, 8 o'clock in the morning, to go to church every week, take my kids to church. So just keep that in mind. But I used to go to bed at 5 in the morning, go to church. So you can do it.
Yeah, and plus, I everybody always said, but I'm still young, and everything, but it still sucks. It just so tired.
Sucks. It does.
I'm trying to listen. Mom's like, "Don't fall asleep." I'm like, "I'm not. I'm still thinking about the football games that happened yesterday." I am paying attention. It's so funny, but like I said, I can't wait for week 3. And it was a great Saturday.
All
Fantastic.
Right.
Thanks for having me on.
Sure, Jeffrey. Pay attention in church.
I will. Thank you.
All right, let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. Mike, thank you so much for your Super Chat contribution there. Mike says, why should Ohio State be ranked in the top 4? They beat a G5 team and beat a team that's winless and lost to a G5 team, not a single P5 data point. Okay. I was simply stating, when asked by a caller, what the AP will do. I didn't say that I was going to rank Ohio State in the top 4 or that they should be ranked in the top 4. I was merely stating what the AP is going to do. And we all know that the AP doesn't know what it's doing. So, yeah, you don't have to earn a top 4 position. You just have to be Ohio State or somebody like that and then not lose. But it's all going to work out. Well, bite your lip, Mark. Somebody should punch me in the face for saying that right now. I don't mean it's all going to work out. I mean, most of it's going to work out, because it's not going to work out, and rarely does work out because it's a horrible system. But we will have certain things will be sorted out, obviously. Ohio State being ranked number 3 when they didn't earn it, it's obviously going to be put to the test by Penn State and Michigan State and Michigan and Wisconsin and others, even though, of course, people are going to say, well, Wisconsin's not that good. They just lost to Washington State. You know what? All sorts of teams are going to be losing to all sorts of different teams. So all the teams that have looked bad because they've lost a game already, you know what? There's going to be a whole new batch of teams next week that are going to start losing games. So a bunch of teams that you think are great right now, you know what? Their loss is coming next week or the week after. Got Austin Williams here to talk some college football. Austin, how are you?
What's happening, Mark?
Not too much. How's it going?
Man, Mark, what a day of college football. Upsets left and right. Teams making statements. You just never know on any given Saturday.
Generally, you don't know. Correct.
And man, I have to say, I was surprised that Texas A&M lost to Appalachian State, just as everybody else was. I was expecting Jimbo to have them guys ready to play this game, and they just didn't look like they were ready at all, Mark. I don't know if you saw the same thing or
Well, when you say they weren't ready to play, I think it's more has to do with having an inexperienced quarterback who misses a ton of throws, and just an issue with that. Basically, they have got an offensive issue. They have an offensive issue where they had one of the best running backs in college football last year, Isaiah Spiller. And Devin O'Shane's a good back, but he's not Isaiah Spiller. He's a very talented, probably more talented than Isaiah Spiller, but he is not the player that Isaiah Spiller is. They got a quarterback issue, got a quarterback who's a runner, better runner than thrower, and Jimbo Fisher wants him to be something different. They've got wide receivers that they have recruited that have been highly, highly ranked that haven't panned out, haven't been developed. Jimbo Fisher has basically developed a program and built a program that recruits extremely well and extremely well everywhere, but has developed a really good defense and a good offensive line, and the rest of the offense has been, I'll be kind, marginal.
Well, the thing too is, Mark, isn't Texas A&M, wasn't Jimbo building this team to beat Alabama per se?
Well, if you want to phrase it like that, sure. To win championships and to do that, you have to beat Alabama. Yeah.
Because for all intents and purposes, Mark, Alabama is the standard of the SEC.
Sure.
But you can throw Georgia in there and so forth. But and speaking of the SEC, Mark, Kentucky, they turned a few heads tonight. Didn't play that well in the first half, but in that second half, they put it together, especially on defense. That pick six really turned in their favor.
Well, Mark Stoops has built a program there that relies on certain aspects of the game that aren't going to go into a slump. He's got a quarterback there that is a great athlete, and they found some playmakers on the outside with Key and with Robinson, and the defense is rock solid.
In which Mark Richardson, the quarterback for Florida, he was just missing a lot of throws today too.
Well, he's going to do that. That's who he is.
And help me explain this to me. Why did Florida feel the need to go for it on their side of the field on 4th and 7? Why did they feel that was
You're going to have to point to me the circumstances there. I don't remember that particular sequence.
So it was 23-16 with 6:13 to go, and it was 4th and 7, and they were on their own 40, and they went for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that necessarily a good decision, especially when you got a quarterback who's not accurate. And it's just from a analytic standpoint, it's not the play to make, especially in a game that's not that's a defensive game in which you've generally held down the other team. So Kentucky, if you look at it, they got a pick six. They scored one offensive touchdown. So yeah, they scored one offensive touchdown. That's not the play to make. Florida, I would agree with you. Based on that scenario, they should have punted.
Well, the thing is, too, Mark, after Florida gave the ball back, Kentucky then missed a field goal on the next possession, I do believe, and still gave Florida another chance. They went for it again and didn't get it. It just seems like Billy Napier and wasn't confident enough in his defense to just punt the ball away and hold the offense, let his defense hold the offense at bay.
Well, Billy Napier knows his team better than I do, but I also watched 90% of the game, and his defense played well and only gave up one offensive touchdown. So, and he's got a quarterback that's inaccurate. So,
yeah, Mark, in the Notre Dame game, both sides of their football, the defense and the offense, they don't look right at the moment. Especially their defense, giving Marshall's quarterback all that time on that 3rd and goal play. Like, how do you expect to generate any pressure when you can't get to the quarterback and you give them all this time to throw these passes or let the QB run it in? Or, like, how do you fix that?
Well, I've got to think, without watching that game, I only saw the interceptions thrown by Tyler Buckner. I got to think by the outcome of that game and by knowing what happened to Notre Dame last week, I got to think that this was a classic example of the coach, Marcus Freeman, not being able to get his team motivated, inspired, focused, ready to play Marshall after they poured so much into playing Ohio State.
And one more thing before I go, Mark. Did you happen to see the Louisville UCF game yesterday?
I was doing a call-in show here. I had it on, so I can't say that I was like locked in focus, but I had it on.
Mark, I have to say I am impressed that we did play not too well in that game, but we were able to overcome and we were able to win that game. I think that's a good stepping stone for us. Hopefully, we can keep building on that. Cunningham, he looked better this week. The defense, they showed up in the second half. And as a Louisville fan, knowing our defensive history in the last couple of years, that's all you can ask for. Is your defense to step up when you need them to.
Yeah, it was a good win for Louisville. Your defense played well. I don't think UCF scored past the first quarter. And but the one thing I would say is you benefited greatly from John Rice Plumlee not making the best decisions in the world. But
that is true.
Nice win for you.
Thank you, Mark, for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You have a good night. All right. Mike letting us know via Super Chat that his Super Chat was ignored. I don't ignore any Super Chats. So, but anytime you want to send me a Super Chat that says that a Super Chat was ignored, you are more than welcome to please do that. I would like as many Super Chats as possible that say that I ignore Super Chats, and then I can read the Super Chats, both that you tell me that I ignored and then the ones that I apparently ignored, but I did read. So, but thank you for that, Mike. Oh, we got Dustin on the line. Dustin Miller, how you doing tonight, sir?
Hey, how you doing, Mark? I'm doing pretty damn good.
I'm doing well. I appreciate your Super Chat contribution tonight. Thank you so much for those.
Yeah, and I want to say to everybody out there, hey, it's $5. Join Patreon. Get on there. I had a great time today, just like last weekend. It's a good time getting on there, talking. We got on live chat. Had a good old time all day today talking football. It was a great day to talk football, too. A lot of upsets, a lot of great games, man. Can't expect or ask for anything better than what happened today. And
yeah, it was a great day.
I did the pick'em that you guys got on Discord. I didn't know that it was the spread that I was picking.
Oh, well, that hurts.
I found out afterwards, and but I made it known that I had picked Texas. So I had Texas Tech, I got BYU, and I had Marshall outright beating Notre Dame. I should have bet some damn money today.
Yeah, you would have made some money on that. Marshall odds. My goodness.
I don't know what it was. I just had a feeling. I didn't think Notre Dame really showed much against you guys last weekend, so I didn't think they really. And well, now we see what Notre Dame quarterback really is. It looks like some guy named Tommy Turnover.
Well, I wouldn't be too hard on the Notre Dame quarterback. He's played 2 starts. He may turn out to be a good one. We'll see.
No, I think he actually.
We will see.
Quarterback. I think Notre Dame is actually still a pretty decent team.
I think they are too.
Unfortunately, they just ran into. I mean, I also think Marshall's a pretty good team. So we'll see. I mean, this is only week 2. I don't even really like to rank teams right now. I'd rather rankings come out week 5, week 6, because we don't really know anything about. I mean, we can do it today. I mean, look at Michigan's schedule. Like,
sure.
I watched them play Hawaii. Of course, I watched the whole game, and I got upset. Jim Harbaugh. Why the hell are you even putting Cade McNamara in the game? Why? JJ's tearing it up. Put Cade in. He goes 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Like, I get it. I love Cade McNamara. I'm a huge. I defend that guy all the time to everybody, but I don't know if I can do that anymore. But it was against Hawaii, so big difference. We'll see what we got. Maybe 4 weeks from now, maybe we'll see somewhat of a team like Michigan. I don't know.
So you're telling me that JJ played a lot better?
Oh my God, man! I'll tell you what. I've been waiting for that deep ball pass for Michigan because we've had the receivers. And JJ was 100% on all his deep balls today. And I mean, not just 100%, but he threw it to the wide receiver in double coverage, touchdown, to where only the wide receiver is catching it. Yeah, I love Cade McNamara, man. We would not have got where we got last year without him. No doubt. There's no doubt. JJ made some, we lost to Michigan State probably because of JJ. Because he was a freshman and he's a rookie. But now JJ's stepping up, and holy crap. I didn't really call to talk about Michigan, but I'll tell you what, man, JJ is firing on all cylinders. I think he missed one pass.
That's what I'm looking at here. 11 for 12 for 229 in the air, 3 touchdowns. Cade went 4 for 6 or 26 yards and threw a pick. Yep. I think we've got our starting quarterback. And I'm not just basing it on that, but I got to think that we're going to hear an announcement that whether Jim carries this out for one more week or he just goes ahead and makes the announcement that JJ's the guy.
I think I know Harbaugh pretty well, and I think that he's gonna carry it on another week.
Okay, he might.
Because, well, honestly, I'm starting to believe that the whole reason Cade even started this year was just to give him his due respect for what he did for us last year. And I get it, because we got such a cupcake schedule right now. Like, okay, let him go out there. But last weekend, he looked horrible. I told you that when I called last weekend. He was horrible. And then JJ comes in and it's a whole different team. And today, same thing. JJ's in. They're blocking. The blocking for the run is amazing. The blocking for him to get passes down the field was amazing. And then, what was it, 35, I think, nothing? And they throw Cade in there, which, well, in my opinion, I was like, why are you putting Cade in right now when there's like 4 minutes left in the second half or second quarter? Like, he's got nothing's going on. So anyway, he comes in, throws the ball, receiver drops it. Second down, Zinter misses a block completely, and McNamara gets sacked. It just didn't look like the Michigan players like really wanted to play for Cade. I mean, he came in 3 times tonight and went 3 and out on all 3 drives. It just didn't like it. I don't know. And then when they put JJ back in for the 2-minute in the second quarter, right before halftime, and of course he goes down the field and scores. And there are some people there on Discord we're on, and I can't remember. Somebody was saying the stadium was cheering when JJ came back out after Cade went 3 and out in the second quarter, right at the end there, and they thought that was bad. Michigan fans are horrible. Like, what the hell? Like, they weren't cheering because Cade wasn't out there. They were cheering because JJ was tearing it up. There was no boos when Cade came in. They were cheering for JJ. That's all it was. That's all it was. There was no booing about it. I mean, I love Cade. I defended him all last year. I defended him at the beginning of this year, up until this game even. I was still defending him. Like, look, like Cade's a field general, But shoot, he looks horrible. He's a check down quarterback. That's what he's turned into. I don't know what it is. He does not have confidence, and if he does throw that deep ball, it's just he's off about 4 or 5 yards. But anyway,
All right.
yeah,
Dustin, I don't know if we can squeeze any more out of the J.J. Cade McNamara comparison.
Yeah,
Is there anything else you got for us?
I didn't want to really even call about that. No, I wanted to talk about today, man. Texas, Alabama, what a game. Tennessee, what a game. What a game. We had some great games today. I love college football. This is why I love college football. I was on my edge of my seat all day today. Man, that Texas-Alabama game, I mean, I could get into it with the reffing and all that crap and whatever, but it is what it is. Alabama took the win. Whether or not that 2-point conversion, or not 2-point conversion, but the safety was a safety. I was sitting there
the way it was explained to me is that I don't think the officials did anything wrong. I just think it's a rules issue.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. It was.
The rule should be that the officials should be able to make a judgment on if a quarterback is throwing the football and he's basically laying on his back practically and just chucking the ball up in the air. And there's no way it's going to make it to the line of scrimmage, and it bounces off somebody's helmet or just barely deflects off somebody's helmet. And they can watch that on replay. Then they need a rule that ball was not going to make it back to the line of scrimmage, and it would be a safety.
Yeah, no, I agree. We were sitting there today on StreamYard, bunch of us, and that play happened, and all of us were like, what is going on right now? Nobody understood. None of us. I couldn't understand what was going on. How they went to replay and they came back and they were like, I was like, what? It was insanity to me. I couldn't believe they called in a 4th down. They punted. Like, yeah, like you just said. Well, let's see. One of your followers, the Tide Man, is that what his name is?
Tide guy,
yeah. He was he kept saying he was down. Well, the replay kept showing no, he wasn't down. He rolled on the back of the other player that was, basically trying to sack him in the end zone. And then he winds up and tries to throw the ball while he's on his back, and he basically just throws it right into the face of a Texas player. So I was like, yeah, it was very confusing. I needed to bust the rule book out for that one, and I'm still confused about what happened.
Okay, what happened was the quarterback threw the ball, and the ball was touched by a defender. Therefore, it didn't have a chance to get to the line of scrimmage. And the rule is that if a defender touched it, then you can't call intentional grounding with the ball not making it to the line of scrimmage. And normally I would understand that if like the ball was batted up at the line by an intentional act by the defender. But this was a defender who had Bryce Young almost planted on the turf, and Bryce Young just whipped the ball and it deflected off of his helmet.
Yeah, Bryce Young was on his back when he threw that ball. Like, what do you think he's doing? He's throwing the ball away. Come on. He wasn't going to make line of scrimmage. He literally hit the dude right in the defender, right in the helmet. Yeah. Like, he just threw it right into his face. And I think when we were watching it, they called targeting.
Yes, there was a targeting call. There was a personal foul call.
Yeah.
But they wiped those out.
We were all like, where's the dart? And we were saying, like, the only targeting I see is Bryce Young whipping the football right into the defender's face.
Well, they did not call those. They turned those over, so that was not an issue.
No, it's just a crazy game. I feel bad for Texas, but It is what it is. That's how games go. You got to take, it sucked that Texas's quarterback got hurt.
Yep.
I mean, that was huge. Like, he looked spectacular.
Yep,
Like,
he did.
Holy But that you never know. Obviously, if somebody gets hurt like that, you never know how the game's gonna go. And then Card comes in and he managed the game somewhat.
Oh, I thought he played great.
Yeah, he did. He did play great, but he was also hurt. He was limping basically the whole time he was in. But what a hell of a game, man!
Yeah,
Holy
it's a great
crap.
game.
And then the
All right.
Tennessee and
Yep, a lot of great games today.
All kinds, all over the place, and we still got one going on right now here. BYU.
Oh, we got 3 great games going on right now. Shoot, BYU and Baylor have 6 minutes left. It's 20-20. You got Fresno State and Oregon State are playing a 2-point game, 23-21 in the fourth quarter. And I don't know what's going on with Mississippi State and Arizona, but it was close. So a lot of great stuff. Dustin, appreciate you stopping by. Let me get to these other calls.
Yep, get in. You got a lot.
Thanks a lot, Dustin. I appreciate it.
Take care, man.
All right, let's keep moving. We got Ian on the line from beautiful Akron, Ohio.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I am doing great. What's going on?
I, too, did not watch Ohio State today because there was just more interesting games on, such as Texas and Alabama. Before we get to that, as much as I love watching Notre Dame lose 99 times out of 100, I think the only season in my entire life that I wanted them to go 11-1 or at least 10-2 would have been this year. And it's like, because that, that's not looking great for an Ohio State win now so much. But I've been thinking about maybe starting something where we could do, we'll start a new invitational. Okay, because I feel like certain teams have earned their invitation. We don't even have to wait to week 6 or 7 for these rankings. We can make the worst of the best. My top 4 team invitational right now, maybe you can seed them for me, Mark. We'll go Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Nebraska, and Iowa. And we're just going to cancel their seasons and put them in a playoff. No, we won't cancel their seasons. We'll put them in the invitational, and each week it'll just be the opposite of the playoff. Each week we just take the worst of the best, and they can get their own invitational. Who's winning that one, Mark? Those 4 teams.
Who do we got? Texas A&M, Notre Dame, Iowa, and who else?
Nebraska.
Oh, Nebraska.
So, and the top seed is the actual worst of the best. So
yeah,
it's
Nebraska's. It's not even close. Nebraska.
So Nebraska's number 1.
They're the worst. Yes.
Maybe Iowa 2.
Maybe. I don't even think there's any competition between those 4. Nebraska.
I know.
Nebraska's been doing this longer than anybody.
You're right.
This is a 2022 thing for the other 3. For Nebraska, it's a decade-long thing, and it's certainly a Scott Frost era thing.
Yeah, I just don't know how that guy can even show up in front of anybody anymore. But I mean, Texas A&M, yes, I don't think it's just a 2022 team. Yes, they're not as bad as Nebraska, but like, what is going on with that program? Because I mean, it's just we always talk about you went 9-1 in 2020. It's like, okay, despite the fact that they played 2 teams that had a winning record and won their bowl game with a team that had like their 5 best players out, and then it's COVID year. Like, nothing was normal that year. Like, I almost don't even give most people credit for anything that year because it just was, the season was all over the place. So I just want to laugh when I think of Texas A&M and Notre Dame right now. I don't know what's going to happen with them, but in terms of Alabama and Texas today, now was it that Texas did come out, look impressive compared to what we thought they were going to? and play a competitive game and look like they really wanted it? Or was it just also the fact that Alabama looked terrible? And what do they have, like 20 penalties today? Because
10, yes.
No, they had 15 in the second half. They said it was the most Saban had.
I thought it was 10.
At one point, they said 15 penalties. I'm pretty sure, unless
the yardage on it. Now, certainly they did not have a great day from a penalty standpoint, but from a yardage standpoint, it wasn't that big a deal.
They said it's the most that Saban has ever had since he came to Alabama.
I think it was 110 yards. I'll check it here in just a second. And certainly teams have 110 yards in penalties. Alabama had, 15 penalties for 100 yards. So they weren't glaring penalties. But, that's not a good day. They had 100 yards in penalties. But this was more to me about Texas playing well than it was Alabama not playing well. Because I know Alabama didn't play a clean game as evidenced by 15 penalties for 100 yards. But shoot, Texas lost its starting quarterback and its backup quarterback was limping, and he is a runner, and he was burning Alabama's defense before he got hurt, and they still outplayed Alabama. They had a pass interference call that should have been called in the first quarter, in which they had to kick a field goal. It might have been a touchdown. Well, they would have first and goal at the 1 on a pass to the end zone. Xavier Worthy dropped what would have been a touchdown pass in the back of the end zone. I think Texas I think they were so close in that game. Obviously, it came down to the last kick, but they play like this the rest of the year, they are going to win the Big 12.
Yeah, and I'm not taking anything away from Texas. I think they really were impressive today. I just obviously they should have won the game. A lot of crazy things happened in that game. It was not really a normal game, but I just think that also with the penalties, maybe the yardage wasn't huge for Alabama, but psychologically it was huge for Alabama because they're all flustered. Saban's pissed off, and if Bama came out and played like they normally do, or when they're looking good, I think Texas could have played as good as they did today, and Bama still would have beaten them decidedly. I just feel like so. I mean, I think just with these kind of games, close games with like this, it's just very hard for a team like Texas, who isn't quite there yet, to win in the end of a close game. Usually these games are decided at the end with, you see that the star player or the talent at the end really just, you can't keep up with it and they just pull it out. And that's what happened today. But I guess leading into that, so we have now seen the top 3 teams in the country based on the rankings they've each had their one cupcake game, and they've each had their one, test, if you will. So we had Alabama played Texas, Georgia played Oregon, and we had Ohio State and Notre Dame. Now, based on these 2 weeks of a resume, my opinion is that Georgia clearly looks like the number 1 team in the country. Maybe Texas is better than Oregon. That could be the case. Maybe Oregon's not number 11. But just saying that they all have something to compare it to in terms of one cupcake and one test, one challenge each. Georgia looks the most dominant. Now, imagine if Georgia came out looking like against Oregon, looking like Alabama did today, and had 15 penalties. Their receivers are dropping passes, not playing well. Now, would Georgia have blown out Oregon? Probably not. Maybe unless, I guess if Bo Nix was starting for Texas, it would have been that bad. But
the point, though, I get your point, but the counter argument to that is that Georgia didn't go out and commit 15 penalties like a great team should do, and they didn't drop passes, and they annihilated Oregon. I'm guessing that if Oregon Notre Dame, and Texas, if you line those three teams up and they played games against each other, that they would be very competitive games, and we would have no idea who would win those games.
Yeah, and that's actually I think we're agreeing right now. That's what I mean. Yeah. What I mean is that's why I'm saying that Georgia looks like the number one team, because they didn't come out and look like they look like the number one team because they didn't do what Alabama did.
Yes.
And now Ohio State, it's kind of hard to tell because we don't know how good Notre Dame is, and they're not looking good. Maybe they're still a good team, but they don't look like a number 5 team in the nation and have a lot of questions. And if you're a Notre Dame fan right now, you were extremely excited about Marcus Freeman, but I don't know how you're feeling right now. I know he's a new coach and they love him, but I guess my point is Georgia looks like number 1, hands down to me at the moment. And Ohio State's got a lot of great potential. It's just C.J. Stroud's been getting off to a little bit of a slow start. I don't know. I think they'll be fine, obviously. Still haven't given up a touchdown. But yeah, that was pretty much my main thing that I think. Would you put Georgia? Well, you'll tell us later, but I think you'd agree that Georgia looks like the most dominant team in the country.
Yep, they do.
All right. Well, all right, cool, Mark. Well, thank you so much, and you have a good rest of the night, sir.
Thanks, Ian. Appreciate you. All right. Voice of College Football, of course. We've got our Amazon link in the description section of all the videos. When you shop on Amazon, please use the link in the description section, which means 225 on the line. The numbers make sense that I hear that like 120 of you will shop on Amazon this month. So if you grab the link in the description section and use it, you help the channel. Well, let's go to Roberto. Roberto, how's it going tonight?
Doing great. What's up? So I went to the Ohio State game with one of my dad's friends, and he enjoyed it. I think our offense clicked a lot better this week, but I don't know what's going on with the defense, especially Cam Burke is just not played great. A lot of PIs. We got burned on a deep ball, and then a lot of missed tackles this game. I mean, I don't get it. There's terrible angles going on like stationary routes, and then they just make one move, and then they get the first downs. They got to clean that up. That's just one of my takeaways for the defense. Other than that, no touchdowns given up allowed, and and a lot of red zone trips. I've done just 3 points.
Well, they couldn't have missed too many tackles if they didn't give up a touchdown. What was the yardage? What did that look like? Let's see here. Because I didn't see any of it.
The Ohio State game?
No.
That's probably a lot of the Texas game was a major one, and I was having it on my phone.
There's so many other good games to watch that that did not that wasn't higher than like 17th on the priority list at noon today.
Like, how much is Nick Saban going to punish his team in practice, especially after that horns down at the end of the game?
Somebody threw up the horns down.
Yeah, and he's like, I don't want to say exact words. I was like, don't do that crap. I think he heard it in the broadcast too after that when he was about to go. Before the handshake, he was just yelling at his team, his players, to not do that.
Yeah, well, that's going to be part of his disciplinary. Yeah, he's going to go through all the penalties and all the mistakes, and then he's going to tack that on as, we had a bad day, and you need to be better. And that's the perfect kind of Nick Saban lesson right there. They still get the win, but he gets to scold his players and show them all the mistakes that they made.
So what are your thoughts on, the NIL and the transfer portal making, these group of 5 teams a little more competitive and pulling off like good performances and upsets like Texas A&M?
The transfer portal and NIL. We think that's the cause of some upsets?
Not to cause some upsets, but bring in some talent to, to perform better.
I don't know if that's the cause of it.
No. Just had bad days.
No. We're going to find a real reason, except for somebody had a bad day. I think our reasons are more that we still have the effect of the COVID season, which means that we have super seniors and we have guys that have stuck around programs for 6 and 7 years. Well, those programs have been more group of 5 and lower level programs because the teams that have the big players that can make money and play in the NFL, those guys go. So we've got more mature teams with experienced players playing in the group of 5 and the lower Power 5 teams that are able to compete because they've got deeper rosters with more experienced starters. And I think that might be having an impact, as well as shocking upsets like App State, Texas A&M take us by surprise. But much like what goes on out in the real world, when things get magnified, when one thing happens and people have a bunch of videos of it and they throw it all over social media and everybody thinks that's what's happening all the time everywhere because there's one example of it that gets thrown in everybody's face. It's similar here. Let's not go crazy. Yes, it was a great game. It's interesting, it's intriguing, it's exciting, all those things. But it will be my estimation that when we add up the Power 5 results against the Group of 5 by the end of the season, we're going to come out with the same results that we always do, and that's that the Power 5 wins 85 to 90% of the time. So let's not blow one game out of proportion.
Well, I think specifically, the Sun Belt is playing good. Is App State from the Sun Belt, or is it from?
Yes.
So App State, and then Georgia Southern beating Nebraska too, which I missed because I fell asleep after the game was like 35-35, and then come back and see the final score being 45-42, Georgia Southern. And I think that's just two examples of the upsets on the Sun Belt. So that's it for me.
Thanks, Roberto. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. We got Jordan on the line. Hey, Jordan. Hello, Jordan. Jordan. Are you there? Once, twice, 3 times. Thank you. Call back. Nick. Is Nick there?
Hey, Mark, can you hear me?
I got you. How's it going, Nick?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing just fine. I guess I'm bypassing the rule today that people should be leaving their names and where they're calling from in the private chat, but we'll let that go tonight. I like to build banners so people know
private chat
who we're talking to and so forth. But you're good, Nick. There was no reason I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying that in general. So how you doing tonight? What's going on?
All right. Didn't know anything about a private chat. Anyway, don't want to be breaking the rules here. Can we play a two question game real quick? Do you like the game Never Have I Ever?
I've never heard of it, but Never Have I Ever. Okay, I think I can catch on to that Mark, pretty quick. It seems pretty self-explanatory.
Never Have I Ever? You've honestly never heard of that game?
No.
People in the chat, I'm assuming like this is shocking.
Yeah, don't be shocked by anything that I don't know about or don't.
Mark, but you worked at ESPN.
Yeah.
They don't play Never Have I Ever there. That's like a new introductory employee game. The chat will back it up anyway.
How new are we talking about?
It's been around for centuries. No, not centuries. It's been it's been around forever. Let me throw this out to you.
Wait, it's not been around for centuries, but it's been around forever?
Well, it's been around for a while. Can we agree on that?
I don't know. If I've just got introduced to a game that I've never heard of, how can I agree upon that?
Okay, well, I think you'll catch on when
Okay. Anyway, go
I
ahead.
think you'll catch on. Never have I ever
Okay.
been in church
Okay.
and met a new couple in front of me who thought that my daughter was my wife.
And I'm supposed to, what are my two options? My two options would be yes or no.
Yes or no? Yes.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, that's okay. So you've never been in church with your daughter, and a couple came up to you and thought that she was your wife. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying no, that I have had that experience with my daughter.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I have had somebody a couple times ask whether my daughter was my wife.
Okay. Okay. And I think it'll kind of catch on a little bit more after this. Never have I ever been on a broadcast and mispronounced ruptured disc, and that's D-I-S-K.
Yes. So, I don't know who's calling, but I can only imagine what insider information we've received.
It's not insider information.
Oh, these are things that I've stated in the past.
These are things that you have stated because
I know the most recent thing that you just stated about what I've said, and I've told that story 3 or 4 times. Yes, so I've told that story before. The other one I don't recall saying that, but I obviously did.
You do, but I have a very specific memory. So, and I follow your channel to a T. So I don't blame you for not remembering that. That's why that's why I kind of play the game. It's honestly, it's a joke. So it's kind of a ha 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 ha. Anyway, getting to my first thing here, and I won't take too much of your time. I just want to say, like, just statement wise first, the amount of excuses for Alabama is a lot that I've seen in a long time. I mean, you win by 1 point on the road in the first real road game since what? They haven't traveled to a Power 5 opponent or hostile environment since 2011 Penn State.
Yes. Yep.
Your offensive line was getting abused by Texas's defensive line.
Yeah.
That was actually kind of pathetic. And also, they were way more gap sound than Alabama was prepared for. It's almost like they were thinking Texas was going to be some defensive liability. Texas also had a hobbled second-string quarterback. I don't want to hear the excuse that, Texas is a lot better than what we thought. Their first-string quarterback went out in, what was it, the first quarter or early in the game, and he was torching them.
Yes.
Torching them downfield with Xavier Worthy, which, by the way, I will say was a Michigan commit. Go Blue. But
dead on. I'm with you.
Also, what about the penalties? What was up with that? I mean, that was pathetic. People always say the SEC is. Did you not hear Joel Klatt say he kind of hit a? I don't think a lot of people heard this. He's like, they're gonna make you call it the pass interference, but it's kind of like an SEC thing that they're like, this is the SEC is so physical on defense, but it was blatant. It was obvious. You could almost call a pass interference on every call at least in the first quarter.
Yeah.
But I guess it's basically the narrative that the SEC is so far above other conferences. I'm not going to say that they're not the best conference, but I think it needs to be slowed down just a touch, just a slight touch. So, and ultimately, I think we learned today, I mean, I don't really know how you argue this, but we got the answer why Nick Saban doesn't like to travel to other Power 5 stadiums other than his own today. I mean, we saw it play out on TV. So, I don't know. Do you have any comments on that? Or
well, we saw it play out, but we could say that for any team in America, any elite team in America, we could say.
It was one game.
Yeah, it was one game. So, yeah, is Alabama invincible? Absolutely not. Did they play?
And also, can I throw this to you?
Okay.
Real quick. Texas is one of those teams that has been recruiting at a very high level. That's been like a sleeper. It just hasn't translated to the field, the talent that they have. So I think maybe Alabama was a little. Well, no, I'm not. Obviously, you know that. I'm just also talking to your audience. Because a lot of people may be like, oh my gosh, there's 1 point. Holy cow, that was like a crazy thing. Like Texas had nothing and Alabama had everything. And it's not like that's not the case. Like I think Alabama's offensive line probably got on the field and got a little bit surprised that, oh, these guys aren't, clowns. So, but anyway, yeah. Any final? You can continue. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, I don't exactly know where I was going when I started talking there, but basically, I pretty much said what I had to say during my little 12 or 15 minute spiel on my video. That basically, Texas, I was impressed that they didn't make the one play or get the one call or whatever you want to fill in the blank to obviously win the game, but because there was 18 different ways, if they would have made one other play, the game's over. The one that annoyed me the most was because I just mentioned this the other night that I get sick of seeing guys do this, is the cornerback, Ryan Watts, came off the corner. Alabama didn't block him. This is on the maybe 2 to 3 plays before the game-winning field goal. Alabama didn't block him. He had a clear shot at Bryce Young. I don't know why guys do this.
Gosh.
He runs right by him and spins
they had the
around.
Game won there almost.
Guys do this all the time. When you're within about 2 yards of the guy and he's a sitting duck quarterback, you got to break down and make a tackle. Just flying by and spinning around his waist doesn't do it. And then Bryce Young takes off for 30 yards. And then you got your game-winning field goal.
I think you got to give the credit to Bryce Young there, though. Like, mostly. I mean, I know it was right there, but I mean, at the same time, it's just, oh my gosh.
I see all sorts of quarterbacks do that. I see
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That all over the place. And then also the officials missed for as many PI calls as they threw on Bama. They could have thrown another 5 or 6, as you just mentioned, I believe. One of them cost Texas a possible touchdown that should have been called in the corner of the end zone.
What do you think of Texas's defensive line?
Well,
I think they could be a top 10 defensive line in the country. And I'm not just saying that based off what we saw today. I'm just saying, like, not necessarily against their opponent. I'm just saying size, gap soundness, and athleticism from what we saw today. I think they were underrated. I think we can say that. They're big boys.
To provide an overview on the entire situation before I get to that specific question, Texas is unlike any other team in the country. And this statement still holds true, unfortunately, for them, but it certainly held true before kickoff today. This is the most talented collection of football players on the planet that have accomplished nothing. They've never accomplished anything. They've never won a decent game against anybody, for the most part. Yeah, they've accomplished nothing. But it's the most.
They might have the number 1 running back in the country.
Yes, exactly. And he's accomplished nothing. And when I say that, that's not a knock against him. I mean, as a team player, he's accomplished nothing. He's accomplished, and that's not a knock on him. He's a great player and probably the best player in the country at his position.
Well, we saw the physicality just in the game, like down to down. I mean, it was.
So the defensive line performance shouldn't be surprising for 2 different reasons. One, as long as they were coached well, and apparently they have been. To your earlier point, the recruiting has been there to collect those types of players that can handle an Alabama offensive line. And number 2, even though they played well early, the Alabama offensive line had issues last year and obviously has issues this year.
What was up with Will Anderson, by the way?
I think that Sark schemed well to keep him ineffective.
But if you're going to throw a temper tantrum,
that would have allowed him to penetrate and get to the quarterback.
That was bad. I mean, but I do have to say, just from and I know you're not really an NFL channel, but I will just say this: like, seriously, you're gonna get that rattled and make that many mistakes and basically throw a temper tantrum on national television because you're not dominating enough? Like
You're talking about because he knocked the guy down?
not just that, but the offsides, the mental where you could see it. The camera zoomed in on his face, and he was just like, "I don't understand what's going on. I'm confused." When you look at the total package, I mean, it's almost like the guy was throwing a temper tantrum on the field because he was either uncomfortable or frustrated that he wasn't having the impact on the game that he expected to. It's almost like he felt like he was entitled, like people threw praise on me from my stats from last year. I'm supposed to knock this quarterback down time in and time out. And he threw a temper tantrum.
Yeah,
like it was.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I would like to see these guys be a little bit more composed than that. But at the same time,
It's not just that one play, though. That's what I was saying. It was
like
a collective.
20 years old. Yeah, I get it. But these guys are allowed to be human, and especially since I'm a guy in his 50s trying to determine that, okay, I sometimes get upset with these guys as well for a split second, but then I realize, oh, they're 19, they're 20 years old.
Yeah, well, at the same time, I was just saying that from an NFL standpoint. When I'm not looking at it from a 50-year-old perspective. I'm looking at it from a NFL recruiter or an evaluator who's looking to potentially draft this guy in the top 5.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to give a guy tons of salary or tons of, like, we're willing to spend millions and millions of dollars on a guy. I mean, I'm not going to go into it, but I think you get what I'm.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's going to go into the evaluation. I don't think that's going to.
It bothers me a little bit.
Will
Not
Anderson
a lot,
$1
little. Yeah. Anyway, next up real quick, and I'll blaze through these here real quick for you. Who's the starting quarterback for Michigan next week, Mark?
It should be J.J. McCarthy. I can't predict what Jim Harbaugh is going to do. He's either going to name McCarthy the starter or he's going to string this out another week.
Yeah, I don't think that's
because they've got another scrimmage game.
Yeah, I agree with that. Did you see the 2-3? Cade McNamara looked pretty good against Hawaii, didn't he?
Based on the stats, no. I didn't see one play from that game, so I don't know.
Well, I would advise you to well, I won't advise anybody anything, but anyway, the next point, one of the things like okay, Notre Dame loses to Marshall.
Yep.
People are crushing Ohio State.
Yep.
I think that's completely overblown.
Yep.
Like I understand that there might be some equivalency, like you kind of look at certain things, but I just think that it's less about Ohio State and Notre Dame and more about Georgia's the number one because we haven't seen them look bad and everyone else has had like struggles. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. I think that's a dangerous game to play this early in the season.
Sure it is.
To name a team number one, like previous callers did, Georgia, because of what other teams didn't look good this early on in the season. I mean, you're talking about, okay, we're going to put a team number one because other teams look bad when the team that we want to put number one looked good against nobody, but that team lost a record amount of talent, and they haven't played anybody that convinces us that they're actually the number one team in the country. I just don't understand.
It depends on what your criteria for number one is. If you're an AP voter or a coaches poll voter, it seems as though they just vote based on whoever they think is the best team in the country, the second best, the third best. It has less It has less to do with a resume than it does for me. For me, it has everything to do with a resume, and so I can justify a number one ranking because all we have is to go on is 2 games, and Georgia's been the most dominant team.
Yeah, but they also won the national championship last year, and people are just kind of saying like, okay, last year's national champion has looked like less garbage than the other teams, even though they've lost a lot of talent. They look better than these other teams have. But in my mind, I'm thinking like they haven't played anybody because Oregon is garbage. Oregon is not a top 30 team.
You're saying Oregon's garbage based on how bad Georgia made them look.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying, like, well, what I just
you don't
said,
know
I
that
do
Oregon's
not think,
garbage. You don't know that Oregon's garbage. You don't know that they're not a top 30 team.
I'm telling you, subjectively, I do not think that they are a top 30 team. And I think Alabama played.
You might be right, but I just want to bring an example to your attention, and I could bring up 50 examples. But the one that I'll bring up is that if we were sitting here 6 years ago, USC lost to Alabama 52-6. And then if somebody was making this same argument, they would say, well, USC obviously sucks. They just lost 52-6 to Alabama. They're garbage.
Okay, well can I ask you a question?
USC by the end of the season was the third best team in the country based on most people's estimations and won the Rose Bowl.
When was the last time defensive side of the ball lost as much NFL and relative to, I don't know how many first rounders
went
off of Georgia. But when was the last time we've seen that?
We've never seen it.
Never? Like not even Miami back in the early 2000s?
NFL first rounders off the defense. No, that's a record.
Okay. Do you think Georgia, how do you think Georgia would have fared? And again, because I stated early on, this is all subjective.
Sure.
How have Georgia would have looked, in your opinion, versus Texas today? Like an Alabama situation. Do you think they would have played? Do you think Texas would have put up a much closer game than Oregon did to Georgia?
I believe that Georgia and Alabama are extremely comparable teams.
No, but Georgia to Texas.
I'm still answering the question. That was just the first sentence out of my mouth. But Georgia most likely, not that they're not capable of, but most likely would not have made the same mistakes that Alabama made in today's game, first and foremost. And number two, I believe they've got a better offensive line that would have dealt with Texas's front more effectively.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that's fair. I guess my general thing is I guess what I'm saying is I don't disagree that Georgia is not the number one team in the country because I probably would rank them number one. I don't do rankings. I just think like I guess the biggest thing, and maybe you can relate to this, is the narrative. The narrative is like, in my mind, Georgia lost all this talent, and it's like Georgia is all of a sudden number one because they have looked the least crappy.
Who's supposed to be number one then?
I think it's too early on. Well, who's supposed to be number one?
Who would you place number one?
That's a good question. You might not like it. It might contradict a little bit of what I was saying before, but I would say Alabama. I would still leave Alabama number one. And the reason why, honestly, and I really haven't gotten to this,
contradict everything you just said.
Does that honestly contradict everything I just said? Because I didn't. Does it really? You think? What's the most important position in college football?
What is your criteria for ranking the number one team? So for anybody that's got a ranking,
my criteria on ranking the number one team is that you can win a national championship if you have an all-time great quarterback. And I guess I really haven't gotten to that. Jake Coker? What? Yeah. So you're comparing him to Bryce Young? Is that what you're doing?
You're just telling me that you have to have an all-time great quarterback to win a national championship. And I said, like Jake Coker.
And I was getting to that Heisman Trophy type. And you actually brought up the play where Bryce Young kind of dodged that. And that's the only thing. Well,
and I also made the statement that there's 50 other quarterbacks in college football that can make the same play.
Are there 50 other quarterbacks who've won the Heisman Trophy? Like that's exactly what I was trying to finish trying to finish.
Let me rephrase the question. One of the reasons why I at least make a logical top 25 rankings is at least I state the criteria. Everyone knows exactly what the criteria is.
That's fair. That's
the problem we have with the AP and the coaches polls. The same issue that we have with the college football playoff selection committee is that when they name any kind of criteria, it's not the same criteria that we heard 4 weeks ago or that we heard 2 years ago, or it changes all the time because they've got to fit it around the 4 teams that they select. Okay, go ahead.
No, I guess my main point with this, and hopefully we've had a long conversation, so I can't remember everything I've specifically stated, which is unfortunate for me. But I guess I just kind of think the only thing that kept Alabama afloat today was Bryce Young. And I think he is the best player in college football currently. And maybe definitely a few things went his way. But I think the importance of that position and what he was doing, I mean, we saw he had no downfield threat. Actually, here's an interesting thing. Why did it take Bill O'Brien so long to find that soft spot in the middle of Texas's zone?
Okay. So, Nick, we got too many people lined up here.
Okay.
So
all right, Mark.
Wrap it up in 15 seconds.
All right. No, I'll let you go. Anyway,
thanks, Nick.
Yep.
I appreciate it. Have a good night. All right. Now we got Zach on the line. Zach, appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I was at the Purdue game this afternoon, and
Nice.
Comfortable win against Indiana State, 56-0. But because of that, and me being a Purdue fan, I want to know where you stand at this point of the season on the Big Ten West as a division. Do you have a favorite? Who do you like? That sort of thing,
I picked Wisconsin.
I don't blame you on that. I would have picked them as well.
But I'm not going to say that it was like my pick in the Big Ten Eastern Division that I didn't think about. I didn't give it any thought. In the East. In the West, I thought at different times I was going to pick Minnesota. I thought at different times I was going to pick Purdue. But I finally picked Wisconsin. I never considered really Iowa or Nebraska or anybody else. Those were the 3 teams that I had under consideration, and I would not be surprised if any one of those 3 or even Iowa won the division. I think it's the most balanced division in the country, top to bottom. I don't think it's even an argument.
Yeah,
now, just to finish my point, there were obviously a few games that were disappointing for the division. It doesn't make me think any differently about the division, although Wisconsin shouldn't lose at home to Washington State, of course.
Right.
Iowa, their offense is even worse than anyone could imagine. It's been awful. It's been deplorable. I just can't even underline how it should have been addressed for the last 15 years and hasn't been, but they continue to suffer through it. And now they've hit an all-time low. And then my other point would be, I lost track of it, but basically top to bottom, it's the most balanced division from top to bottom in college football. And today's results were not good, but it doesn't make me change my evaluation much. Northwestern always drops games like this, even when they have great seasons where they go to the Big Ten championship game, they lose to the likes of Duke, Akron, Northern Illinois, one of the directional Michigan schools. They always lose a game like this. So
yeah. Well, I think it's going to be a 3-team race between Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Purdue. When those teams get head-to-head in October and early November, it's really going to decide things. But that's all I got. Thank you for taking my call. Have a good rest of the show.
Thanks, Zach. I appreciate it. All right, let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. We see that Baylor could have taken the lead in overtime. They scored a touchdown, but they got called back based on a flag. They didn't score. I don't know what happened after that. Evidently, BYU had the ball. The first team in the second overtime scored the touchdown, had to go for 2, didn't get it. So Baylor's got an opportunity to tie the game and win it with a 2-point conversion. All right, we got Exploring with Ben on the line. Hey, Ben.
How's it going, Mark?
I'm doing well. How was the big post-game show tonight?
Much better than last week, so that's a
yeah, it was. The score was a little bit better.
I unlike most of your people, I'm not gonna take much of your time, so we'll rapid fire.
Okay.
Congrats to Alabama. Hard fought game. Came out with a victory. Congrats to Kentucky, Tennessee, Wake Forest, Marshall.
Yeah.
Will is doing okay. He's surviving.
He was our first caller tonight. He said he was so depressed he stopped watching college football for a few hours.
Yeah, he said he was like, I'm not gonna. He said he was gonna turn off his TV and then just call him later today. He was so messed up over that.
Yes.
Congratulations, USC. Stanford kind of shot themselves in the foot a couple times there. It could have been a much closer game, but congratulations, USC. App State continuing the probably the 8-4 legacy of Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah.
Wazoo. Screwed my up this week, but good defense. Good defense there.
Yeah.
Cal even. Not by much, but Cal won on the road and they won. Iowa State in that barn burner over Iowa.
Sure. Okay. Are we reading off all the teams that won games today?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm rapid fire. Kansas. Is Joey okay? I haven't not seen Joey today.
I don't know. That could be rough. They're 0-2 now. They were supposed to go 10-2, apparently.
Yeah, he did. Well, he said if we lose, I believe he said if we lose to Kansas, he didn't want to specify anything, but Kansas beat West Virginia.
Well, I warned a lot of Kansas or West Virginia fans last night on our West Virginia show. I said that Kansas had a good chance of winning.
I've said it all offseason. I said, watch out for Kansas. People thought I was joking when I said, go Jayhawks. Like, they thought I was joking. I mean, Kansas is on the rise. They're not going to be there yet this year, but
they are.
Leopold's got them going in the right direction. So, of course, Oregon did what we needed to do. Good bounce back game. And I'm not sure what to make right now, but Arizona, Mississippi State looking pretty good too. It's a good game right now.
Yeah, it's 32-17, correct?
Yeah, it is a good. It was Mississippi State just scored a touchdown a few minutes ago, but it was I don't know. We'll see.
You know what's a heck of a game is Oregon State's going for the game-tying field goal against Fresno State to send it into overtime.
I haven't even gotten to that one. I had to do the post game. I had to stop flipping between games because, as I told you earlier, I got Fubo. Yeah, I got
These
Fubo.
two teams they've each scored like 3 times in the last 2 minutes of the game. They just I thought Oregon State won, but then Fresno State scored with like 1:10 left. But then Oregon State scored, and then Fresno State came back and scored. And now Oregon State, crazy.
That's gonna be one of those games where it's like, who knows what will happen? Yeah, I had to stop flipping between them for the post game, but that was a rapid fire. It's been a great game, a great day of college football.
Fresno State, there's 3 seconds left in the game. Fresno State is actually running a play. They're going to try to run a play, apparently, fast enough that they can kick a field goal. Well, maybe not. Now they're pulling the offense off the field. Maybe that was just some kind of stunt. I don't know why you would do that.
Offsides, get a little closer if they're going to try a field goal. I don't know where they are on the field. So
yeah, they're at like the 4-yard line. They don't need to be any closer to kick a field goal. So I don't know why they're doing that. Maybe it's to get the ball in the middle of the field. I don't know. They're plenty. It's a chip shot. This game, it's going to go to overtime.
Texas had a chip shot earlier too, and they missed it. So
they did.
Yeah. So you never know with that stuff.
Nope.
I haven't gotten to watch that. That's one of the highlights today I want to watch because I have Fubo again. I'm not promoting that, but yeah, it was good to watch the Oregon game. But all right, I'm not going to take much of your time, Mark. That was just a rapid fire. But the Ducks game went well, and the post game went really well. And you cannot milk my pain this week out of that show. So
this is one of the most incredible gutsy finishes I've ever seen in my life. But Oregon State ran a play with 3 seconds left in the game instead of kicking a tying field goal, and they scored a touchdown to win the game.
Go Beavers!
I picked Fresno State. This ruins my pick. I picked Fresno State.
Who scores the touchdown? Fresno State or Beavers?
Oregon State.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That ruined your pick?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then I got my pick. Because every other team today almost has screwed my picks up this whole week. I felt like everyone's been against me this entire weekend so far.
Yeah, this sucks. But it was a gutsy play, that's for sure. They would have lost the game if he would have gotten tackled.
I think I picked App State, though. I think I did pick App State. So, surprisingly, that was the upset pick. One of the three upset
You
picks.
picked them to win the game?
I believe I picked Stanford, App State, and Arizona. Those are my three upsets. And I can't guarantee on the App State one, though. I have to go back and look. But everyone else has been trying to really wreck my weekend.
Yeah, this is really annoying me.
So, all right, Mark, you're backing up.
Thanks, Ben.
I'll talk to you later.
I appreciate it. Ben has more to do with the success of this show than just about anyone. Tim certainly, Joey Foster and others, but Ben's constantly in the chat, letting all of you know to join the Discord, to shop Amazon, to subscribe to the channels and do all those good things. So we appreciate Ben. He just wrapped up an Oregon call-in show or a post-game show. So check it out on the Oregon channel. Jordan's here. Jordan, how you doing? Hello, Jordan. Jordan has called us a few times and he does not respond. I don't know what the communication issue is there. Sorry, Jordan. We'll move it on to David. We'll take two more calls, I guess, tonight. We got David, we got Tim.
All right, to the man that gives college football its voice. The man with the patience of Job and the hairline of a 25-year-old man. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Looking good, Mark.
Both of them. Job was a good man, so I don't know that I can be put in that classification, but that's okay.
What a day of college football. I'm actually watching the end of this Baylor BYU tilt, by the way.
Yeah.
We may be watching Desmond Howard's playoff pick go down, actually. You got that one on?
A lot. Yeah, it's right in front of me here. A lot of things are annoying me. One is that Fresno State, I picked Fresno State to beat Oregon State, and they had the game wrapped up, and they blew it on the last play of the game. And now we got BYU and Baylor, and I need Baylor to win. Or I actually just need them to lose by less than 3.5, which in this situation, that's not going to happen because they need to score a touchdown, of course, here, unless they go to another overtime and lose by 2. If they would take it past this overtime, I'd be golden because they can't make more than 2. So as long as they can keep it going here. Although I did pick Baylor to win straight up as well.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that, but this was going to be tough going to BYU, and we're seeing it right now. By the way, your caller had mentioned earlier he was trying to talk up the Texas, defensive line in the Alabama-Texas tilt earlier.
Yeah.
Don't you think that game was more about the inadequacies of the Alabama offensive line? That does not look like the Alabama offensive line of yesteryear. I mean, I got to be with you.
It looks like the Alabama offensive line of yesteryear is what
like years
last year.
Yeah,
that's the issue they had last year. They were a bad offensive line last year by their standards.
You think Alabama needs to put in another call to Ohio State and have them send over another transfer wide receiver as well, Mark?
They could use that, sure.
I mean, Clack called it. I mean, it looked like the weapons and just the talent around Bryce Young looked lacking. I mean, I think that's. I mean, I'm not saying it can't get there. I'm just saying, wow, they just did it. Mark, do you see it?
I got it right in front of me. I got it on. Let's see here. Shapen throws. Well, he threw it out of the back of the end zone.
Yeah.
When you said they just did it, I thought that meant Baylor scored a touchdown.
No. They threw incomplete.
You got me excited there for a
No.
second.
And the Mormons are storming.
Yeah.
We're storming with the Mormons, Mark.
See, so, this is what pisses me off about picking games against the spread, because I actually think it's a very invalid practice. I think picking the game straight up is much more valid than picking against the spread. Because basically these two games, I couldn't have gotten any more right than I did, but I missed both of them against the spread because I got Baylor in 3.5. Well, they went to overtime. They beat the spread. Well, instead of going to overtime, they should have lost by 1, but they actually played better than that, and they went to overtime. So they actually beat the spread in regulation. So I couldn't have gotten the pick much more correct than I did, but I missed it against the spread.
By the way, I you helped me out today. I took Marshall, by the way, getting all those points. Good call, by the way, on your part, by the way.
It seems like I made few. I'm wiltering late in the day here.
Yeah, I don't think you're looking at 13-8 again, Mark, are you?
Probably not. No, because I got screwed a lot by some just awful last second. I don't know if you pick games. Do you pick games?
I do. I try to. Let's put it that way.
Do you keep your record?
What's that?
Do you keep your record?
Yeah, I keep track.
No, if you keep track, then you probably know the same thing that I know, that logic says that it all evens out, but it doesn't seem like it even out. It seems like you get screwed constantly. Is what it seems like.
Well, I mean, you're looking to, well, obviously it's a simple equation. You got to win more than you lose. So, I mean, by the way, 13-8 last week is a really good record, Mark. I mean, that's nothing to shy away from. That's why I thought I was going to ride the hot hand this week, Mark. By the way, if you're buying stock, buy some USC stock, because I see that as a positive trajectory. What do you think, Mark? Is it still way too early to buy some USC stock?
Yeah, I need to see him play somebody decent.
You took Stanford today.
Yeah, I took Stanford in 8.5, and if they could have hung onto the ball, maybe they would have stayed within. They was within 13.
Right. No, you're close.
I know they had 3 turnovers like in the first quarter.
Well, but I just think with Williams that Riley's going to be able to get Cali quarterbacks and skill players. And you know what? When they get to the Big Ten, they could be a problem, real problem.
Going to be a problem, yeah.
I mean, we're not going to be inheriting Nebraska. Let's put it that way.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
Although Nebraska at the time that we inherited them went to 2 consecutive Big 12 championship games and went right down to the wire.
Well, you know what that also proves? Maybe the Bo Pelini firing was not maybe the direction they should have gone.
Well, obviously not. He was winning far greater than they are now, but obviously he's not the answer.
Either. No, I agree, but obviously it doesn't seem like Scott Frost is going to be either. No. So that's a tough spot. I just want to make a couple other comments. I know you probably want to wrap this up. Maybe you want to look into something called sleep. I get it. But I'll say this. Want to offer something on the Buckeyes. I know it's nothing to judge against Arkansas State, but I do feel better from a team standpoint that our offensive line looks better than it did a year ago, and our front 7 on defense looks better than a year ago. Now, maybe the sample size, these first 2 games aren't worth it. I get it. I know people are going to come at that. But remember, we struggled against awful offenses last year on defense. So I think it's fair to say that we're ahead of where we were defensively a year ago. Is that still a fair statement?
Oh, well, absolutely.
I mean, I think light years ahead of where we were a year ago,
Yes.
which I think is big.
Yes.
And I still want to see this offense with our best wide receiver. So that's the other major point that I would make, which I think is going to be explosive. By the way, how's that West going to shake out? Wow.
Well, they have yet to play any division games, and it's going to be probably just as competitive as I thought it would be. I think it's the most competitive division in college football.
Did you pick Minnesota, by the way? I forgot. I'm sorry.
I picked Wisconsin.
Oh, you picked. I would have picked Wisconsin too.
I considered Minnesota heavily.
Yeah.
My pick in the other division was a foregone conclusion. I didn't even think about it. My pick in the West, I really went through Purdue, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Those were the three that I really considered.
I agree with you. I think the ACC is going to be fun this year, by the way. I think that's going to be real interesting. What do you think?
The ACC?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I don't think there are that many really good teams there. I think it's going to be interesting for the same reason the Big Ten West is interesting.
Yeah, from a competitive standpoint. That's exactly where I was going.
Yeah. And with Texas doing what they did today, shoot, the Big 12.
I agree. You know what, though? I mean, with that talent base, you've said it best, Mark. I mean, they have totally underachieved for the level that they recruit at. I mean, I saw a couple of years ago that Herman had like a top 5 roster the last year he was there. And he loses all these close games, and of course he gets fired.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, for their level of talent, of course they've underachieved, and everybody knows it. By the way, kind of a interesting game in that Kentucky-Florida game. Is that the right to finish second to Georgia on that side of the division?
Probably, yes. Tennessee may jump into that equation as well. But Kentucky's they were my second place team.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Who gives Georgia their best game before they get to Atlanta? Auburn, Kentucky, Florida. Who?
I think Tennessee has the potential to.
Okay, I could see that. I mean, I'll tell you what, though. Tennessee, if Pitt doesn't have like a zillion injuries today, I don't think they get out of Pittsburgh with a victory. They were kind of fortunate in that game.
The other game is you continue here. You should basically, David, take over the show because I'm kind of stewing over my picks here because there's another perfect example right there.
What?
Take Pitt and 6.5. They get to overtime.
Right.
Oh, I got my 6.5. They get, just lose the game by 1. Don't go to overtime. And they lose by 7 in overtime. There you go.
Hey, they didn't build all those buildings in Vegas for nothing, Mark.
Brutal. It's brutal.
All right. Well, as always, a great show. Another great week of college football. And I'll tell you what, let's get together again next week and do this all over again.
Let's do that, David.
Take care of yourself.
Appreciate your call, sir.
Yep.
Have a
take
good
care,
one.
Man.
All right. I guess this will wrap it up for a Saturday night. Appreciate everybody being here. We had a nice, strong show of about 250 or so. Tim, how's it going?
Good, doing good, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How was the USC show?
What's that?
How was the USC show?
USC show was excellent. I mean, I've got Tony and Rick LBC, so it's always going to be good. Those guys are just phenomenal. And we had a beautiful blessings. We had Matt Zemek drop in and stay with us for the whole show. And I know that dude's busy, so
yeah,
I'm really stoked he took the time because and again, anybody out there, even you're not a Trojan fan, his stuff and he throws tidbits about all teams in there.
Oh yeah,
his football insight is just spot on. It really is.
It is.
You got to get over a Trojan's wire. But yeah, he was there the whole time. I was shocked. I thought he called in. He's going to hang out for like maybe 10 minutes and go, all right, I've had enough of this.
Yeah, Matt he was a great find. for sure.
Yeah, he well, we were both talking about the offensive line. I think I remember called you guys I sent a message in the chat about the offensive line at the very beginning of the season. I think you guys were down on them. Or you were down. I don't think Matt was, but did you watch the game or no? It sounded like you watched some of the game.
I had it on a laptop, and half the time it was actually sitting on my lap, but I can't say that I paid that much attention to it to really analyze much, because I just saw such a runaway that there were other games that were just more compelling. I can't say that I took too much from it, except for Stanford turned the ball over 3 times, and I saw USC's play some legitimate defense at times and actually hit guys with a little more ferocity than I've seen a USC defense hit anyone recently. But of course, the game was all Lincoln Riley play calling, getting guys in space, utilizing everybody on the roster in the pass game, and just putting on a clinic that Stanford could not keep up with.
I don't think I'm going on a limb here saying I don't think there are many teams in America that keep up with that offense. I think there's probably a small amount of people that could keep up with that offense. You're looking at, McKee. He's going to be an NFL draft pick, possibly a very high NFL draft pick. That guy, USC's defense. You talk about the turnovers, but the one on EJ Smith, that was a hell of a stick that got that ball out. It's not like he just dropped the ball onto the turf. And the interceptions. I mean, USC's got some athletes in the secondary, and that one thing that's really sticking out is the fact that teams, you can see that they're not ready. I mean, you can tell that it's a new scheme. They're still getting used to his defense, but because there's guys, their biggest play was their tight end did like a reverse. USC did not set the edge, and the guy ran for like 50 yards. And then another play, EJ Smith was wide open in the flat, just walked right into the end zone. So you can see there's some blemishes, but I agree with you. The tackling and fundamentals are there, and there is a toughness I haven't seen from USC in quite a while, at least 5-6 years. So, but I just was curious. So it sounds like you didn't watch too much of the game. I was going to pick your brain about the SC game, but
I didn't. I intended on it, and there was just too much going on that was more intriguing.
What'd you think about the Wisconsin game? The Cougs walking into Camp Randall.
Yeah, I would like to say that I was surprised, but I wasn't. I didn't see any of that. It was a game that I've recorded, but I haven't watched it, and I flipped by it a few times, but not enough to take anything from it. So they obviously played well on defense. I don't know what Graham Mertz looked like, but he's typically a reason why Wisconsin loses to teams that they shouldn't lose to. But obviously, Washington State must have played some really good defense to hold them to 2 touchdowns. But I can't comment on it otherwise.
Yeah, Ward's starting to show. He showed against real competition. He's quite athletic, and that guy's got such a fast release. It is amazing how fast that guy gets the ball out. But yeah, it was a good win. I'm hoping to see if the Pac-12 can pull themselves out of the cellar after this week compared to last week.
They might just do that. You got a big win out of Oregon State and Washington State in particular, and if Arizona, I don't expect them to win this game, but they're not getting crushed by any stretch. They've been competitive in that game, and Arizona State was fairly competitive against Oklahoma State. That's not an embarrassment against a fringe top 10 team in America on the road.
Well, and then those are the 3, the 2 Arizona schools. I've kind of sold my Arizona stock. I thought that they were a little bit better than they're showing today, but I think the Arizona schools and Colorado are the bottom of the Pac-12. But Colorado is definitely the bottom of the Pac-12.
Yeah, I think Cal might be in there too.
Cal played well today. You're right. They're in there too. Well, that's the bottom 4, but the top 8 teams showed out today. I mean, they played well. Some of them not the best competition, but they all did what they were supposed to do. They all covered. I don't think Ohio State covered.
Yeah, I don't think that's too much of a concern for Ryan Day covering the spread against Arkansas State.
You know what they say, Mark? Good coaches win, great coaches cover. That's all I'm going to say.
Somebody said that. That's never come out of my mouth.
Right. All right. Well,
yeah, nice, decent showing for the Pac-12. It's going to take me a while to be proven that it's not the worst conference in college football, but it's based on my rankings are fair based on results. They may have lifted themselves out of the bottom rung. Yes.
Yeah, I think that the Big 12 and the ACC last week there was some question marks on their ranking as well, in my opinion. But I think this week we'll
talking about my ranking.
Your ranking.
What you're talking about? You didn't like my ranking.
Well, it's one man's trash, another man's treasure, whatever. It's the same. I mean, I always listen to your criteria, and I think where we differed is in just because there is a lot of subjectivity in saying which teams are good, which teams are bad this early in the season.
Yes,
we really don't know. Like I heard you say the last call that with Stanford, we don't know. That Stanford offense actually, Mark, looked pretty damn solid. They're going to put up some points. I mean, who do you think's better, Stanford or Notre Dame at this point?
If Notre Dame and Stanford play, I'm taking Notre Dame.
You're taking Notre Dame?
Yeah, and they will play.
Yeah, I know they're playing. They play for sure. I wonder if they play in. Really? Well, I mean, I hope Notre Dame finds an offense because they're going to need to score points again. This is a team they're going to need to score points against because they're going to put up points. So. All right, Mark. I know you're tired. Appreciate it. What a great day. If only every week could be like this, it'd be great.
Well, Tim, apparently we're not going to quite wrap it up because, I would feel bad shutting out Connor here because he's just jumped on, and I know that he's got to be jumping through the roof about Oregon State winning on the final play of the game, which I got to question the stupidity of the coach going for it. But at the same time, they pulled it off. So,
well, they're on the road. They're on the road, and they're on the 1 yard, 2 yard line, and it worked. I know, John Smith.
They're playing a West Coast defense, so they're, that there's not going to be necessarily too much resistance up front.
And so, Hayner's a great quarterback. I don't think you want to get in a shootout in overtime with that guy.
And to my point, just to emphasize it, they're not exactly playing Georgia's defensive front. So I get it. You can kind of.
I haven't seen anybody at the defensive front like Georgia.
Well,
around the nation. That's it. I mean, that's their own category.
They're not even playing Clemson, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Minnesota's defensive front. I could go on and on and on. They're playing Fresno State's defensive front. So there is some credence to let's go for it here. Let's give it a shot. But
all right,
Tim. Thanks a lot. All right, Connor.
Wisconsin's defensive front just lost to Wazoo. Let's go, Pac-12. Back to Pac, baby.
Yes, they did. Well, I don't know that they were much of a factor in losing. I didn't watch any of the game, but they only gave up 17 points. So I don't know that their defensive front was really the issue.
The people want to talk Beaver. The chat wants some Beavs in here.
Do they really?
Came to represent. I think so. Top 25.
Well, we got a sweet victory from Mighty Beaver.
Let's go. Mighty Beaver.
That's a great victory. It is. It was a pick'em game on the road against a good Fresno State team. Yeah.
If I would be lying if I told you my heart wasn't about to explode out of my chest. I think we had to go for it there on the road. So I don't know if you saw the chess match, but we sent our field goal unit out on second down or third down. They called a timeout. We called a timeout. I think they called a second timeout once we realized we were going to run the ball. And then we still came out and ran the ball. And Jack Coletto, he does everything. He flew the plane to Fresno too. I don't know if you missed that.
That's why I got you here.
They actually did. The Beaver Football Instagram page took a picture of him in the cockpit on the way to Fresno, joking that he does everything. I don't believe he's also a mechanical engineering major, so he sits in every team meeting group, special teams, offense, defense. He has a reception touchdown, rushing touchdown, passing touchdown, interception, fumble, all on his docket. I mean, he's 21 years old. I mean, this kid is like the tree. It's the equivalent of the tree, just academically with the tree. That guy was impressive. I don't know if you watched that. That was cool.
I just had the game on here, but unfortunately, I missed the since I ever started these call-in shows late. I don't see anything from the Pac-12 or the Mountain West because it's all being played while we're on here. So it's tough for me to concentrate on anything going on over there. So I just saw where I thought Fresno State won. I thought Oregon State won. I thought Fresno won. There were so many scores in the last 5 minutes that I just. And I got to get past. I need to embrace your joy and all of that because I got to get past being annoyed that I picked Fresno State to win and they lost on the last play of the game.
Come on, Mark. What are you doing?
They should have won the game. In my eyes, I made a good pick. There's a difference between making a winning pick sometimes and making a good pick. Like I picked Pitt to win, or I picked them to cover the spread. They actually did in regulation. Baylor covered in regulation. Those were good picks, but I got screwed in overtime, just like I got kind of screwed in this game.
Well, we scored with 1:56 left. And then we were up by 9? No. We scored, they scored, but they missed their extra point. So we could have kicked the field goal to tie it.
Yeah.
But if the football gods have anything to say with it, they should have made the extra point. We needed to score a touchdown anyways. I don't want to play Jake Haener in overtime. Jake Haener is the real deal. He is going to be an NFL quarterback. He made 0 mistakes. We got lucky to get out of Fresno with a win. But sometimes football seasons take luck. And Boise maybe isn't the second best team in the Mountain West, but Fresno's the first.
Yeah.
Boise's top 4. And if you look at the season as a whole, to play like 2 top-tier Mountain West conferences back-to-back is, I think, the right route to take as far as scheduling non-con, because we're not playing cupcakes, but we're playing teams we should beat, and we played one on the road. So this confidence going forward, if we can split USC and Utah, we play them weeks 4 and 5. So Montana State at home, which they're nothing to scoff at. They were in the FCS championship last year. So if we can get out of the next 3 games, 2-1, who's to say we can't beat USC and Utah, though? Utah is in Salt Lake, so that's going to be a struggle. But I think I just want to talk Pac on a whole real quick, because after this weekend, we certainly can't be the worst conference anymore, right? Wazoo was what, a middle of the pack team, and we beat the 3rd best team in the Big Ten?
You beat the 3rd best team in the Big Ten. Why is Wisconsin the 3rd best team in the Big Ten? We have no idea whether Wisconsin's the best team in the Big Ten or the 8th best team in the Big Ten. That's just an estimation.
But just looking at rankings, they were 19.
Rankings.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. It was in Camp Randall.
I would say that Wisconsin is probably, going into the season, I considered them to be roughly the 4th to 6th best team in the Big Ten.
And Wazoo was the 5th to 7th best team in the Pac-12, is my point. And we played at Camp Randall.
Yeah, that's a big win. Sure.
All right, so we're not last anymore. Let's go back to Pac.
Based on one
Tim,
game?
Eric. No, the beating the top 2 Mountain West teams has to count. Arizona, what's the score of the Arizona-Mississippi State game right now?
I don't know. It should be a final by now. Let's see here. The final score here is Mississippi State's up 22 with 3 minutes left.
Oh, okay. That's about, yeah. Damn. All right, that hurts us a little bit. I would say the Big 12, the ACC.
It's going to be a difficult. If you're asking about my rankings of the conferences, I don't know if you saw my video I posted about the.
I did, yeah. You said we were last.
It will be, yeah. The Pac-12 was clearly the worst.
Well, clearly, but the ACC was pretty bad.
Again, I think I pretty much distinguished why the Pac-12. The Pac-12 was 0-3 against Power 5 teams.
We won all the games we were supposed to win, and we lost to the SEC. And Colorado at TCU. Colorado sucks. So. And the ACC won a few Power 5 games. I believe they won 2. So that was part of the equation right there. That's fair. That's fair.
But that's going to change, obviously, with a really good week from the Pac-12.
How are you doing, Mark? This has been a long day for you. I didn't get to talk about it. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. I'm doing well. I'm going to decide when we get off here whether I'm going to watch a little football that I missed. For example, the Oregon State Fresno State game. I DVR'd the whole thing. So
it was basically a 50-50 game. We held them. The difference was, I think, we held them to 3 or 4 field goals in the red zone where they couldn't finish. I think that was the difference. But did Will ever call in?
Will was the first caller.
Oh, he did.
He was the very first caller.
And he was disappointed.
Quite distraught, and said that after Notre Dame lost, he shut off college football for the rest of the day.
He was literally making fun of Marshall in his call-ins earlier in the week.
Yeah.
That's a bad luck. And App State, App State, Georgia Southern. I thought Nebraska I thought Scott Frost would still maintain his job before today.
Did you happen to see where I ranked your team in my top 25?
Number 6. All right, so we stay there. We have to stay there.
You might move up. I don't know. I have to weigh you against everybody else.
I hate to put so much into the AP and the coaches poll, but I just want to see a rank next to our name on the big screen. So we better be in the top 25, but we might not be. I think we only got 5 votes last week, and I don't think the media knows how good Fresno is or Jake Hayner is. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're still left out of not your poll. You know what's going on. Makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, we actually watch the games and pay attention to the games and not how good people are supposed to be. Yes, that's what we do.
Who was the better team, Texas or Alabama?
Texas played better. They looked like the better team. Yeah.
I agree. Georgia just seems so, Georgia just seems so far and away the favorites. I'll say Clemson didn't do enough to change my mind there. Bama's struggling. And maybe Texas is better than where they were ranked, but, I struggle to see. What's fun about this year is you can't predict who's going to be in the college football playoff right now. Did Baylor beat BYU? I saw they were
BYU won in overtime.
Oh my God, that shakes it up even more because Oklahoma State didn't look good. So I don't know who from the Big 12. I guess Texas maybe. Wow, Clemson could lose in the ACC. The Pac-12 certainly doesn't have anybody at the forefront right now. My goal for the Beavs right now is Vegas will to play an SEC team and beat an SEC team to make a real statement at the end of the year. But the ceiling is 10 wins, honestly, I think. The floor is 8.
Is there a reason that the ceiling is not 12?
Well, we have to go to Utah. So that's one right there that I'm not confident in. I don't think Oregon's bad. I think Georgia's just that good. They come to Oregon State, and so does USC, so that's good. But last year, Beavs were 6-0 at home, but on the road, we only won one game, which was USC. So winning today helps our road cause, but I'm not confident that we have enough experience yet on the road to win these kind of games more than half the time. So we won one today. We might lose one on the road in the future. But, hey, I mean, we could win 12. We could be in the playoff. Could you imagine that? The Oregon State Beavers. You're dark.
Yes. See? Yes.
Hey, all right. No more betting against us.
I did not lay $1 on the game. There were no bets laid. I just made a prediction.
So you checked on Will. He gave up on football. I don't know if you have Texas A&M callers, but they certainly gave up on football. Chimbo. Yeah. I mean, App State could have beaten UNC. I'm less surprised that App State played well. I'm more surprised that Texas A&M at home with all that talent. That's why we love college football. Any given Saturday.
Yeah. It's impressive.
Can we get a Beaver helmet in the background on the sign-off?
Oh, yeah, let's do that for you. We will do that.
Let's go.
Who else showed up for the Pac-12? We can give it a Pac-12 send-off.
Wazoo. Get Wazoo up there.
Where is Wazoo? They've been, I got to get them up there. They've been buried for quite some time on the bottom shelf there.
USC. Who said earlier, somebody said that, or Tim said that, no, you said that Stanford wouldn't be able to score enough on Notre Dame. And Tanner McKee.
Whoa, I didn't say that. I just, hang on. Don't take me out of context.
You said something of the sorts that Stanford wasn't going to compete with Notre Dame.
No. I did not say that. If you rewound exactly what I said, I just said, I forget how it was brought up by Tim, and I just questioned when I said, he said something about USC is going to be difficult for anybody to deal with. That offense, I don't know who they're going to touch. And I said, well, they beat Stanford.
Yeah.
And he said, Stanford's better than you think they are. Then he said, who do you think would win between Stanford and Notre Dame? And I said, well, obviously they're going to play. And I would tend to think Stanford's still a better team, or Notre Dame is still a better team than Stanford. That's all.
Even after that showing against Marshall?
We're going to have showings like this from almost every team in the country.
Where they don't show up at all?
Absolutely. Why is this going to be any different than any of the college football season? There are only going to be a few teams that we can say almost every week they're going to consistently go out and play at a high level. And even when they don't, they're going to be like Alabama and they're going to still find a way to win. There's only a handful of those teams. Otherwise,
yeah, no, that's fair.
Who went to the championship game last year? Utah and Oregon. What kind of games did they lose last year? They lost to San Diego State. They lost to Stanford. They lost to BYU, and not that they weren't a decent team, but BYU wasn't that good last year.
They lost to the Beavs. Cam Rising lost to the Beavs.
So there you go. They lost to the 7-6 Beavs. So
yeah,
why this is going to continue?
Yeah, but before today, you could have never predicted that Texas A&M and Notre Dame were going to lose to who they were playing.
I would not have thought Notre Dame. The Texas A&M, that did cross my mind to pick Appalachian State to win that game. That one, I did think about that. I did not think about Notre Dame losing. No. But,
so are we?
The really good teams in college football, and I'm not talking about Clemson or Ohio State, I'm talking about down the list, are just going to be those teams that show up more than other teams. They're going to be the teams that go 9-3 because they play a good schedule, Arkansas or whomever, and
Oregon State,
and they're still going to have games where we go, really? Oregon State really struggled with Cal and barely beat them, or whatever.
We lost to Cal last year.
So
no, it's a fair point.
Yeah,
but it's why we love it.
Absolutely.
Well, the Buckeyes are still up there for the favorites. I think you can be optimistic that they'll get better. The Notre Dame win doesn't look as good, but the Big Ten doesn't look as good either. So I think Ohio State can run the table, get in the playoffs, and maybe challenge.
The Big Ten doesn't look as good, and I understand you make sense with that statement.
Iowa is worse.
Yeah. But
Michigan State has done nothing. Penn State's done nothing. Wisconsin lost today.
Well, hang on. I understand why you're saying the Big Ten doesn't look as good, because there were 3 games that the Big Ten screwed up today, but they were all in the Western Division, and that doesn't reflect on Penn State, Michigan State. Those could all be tremendous teams.
Well, but
all
neither
of them could be tremendous teams. Do you know how many teams we could go through, Connor, the last 20 years that went to New Year's Six bowl games, that won conference championships, that we could say they lost some really bad games, some really questionable games?
As far as the East goes, they could be tremendous or they could be mediocre, but they haven't played anybody yet.
Well, the East is not going to be mediocre.
But Penn State, Michigan State hasn't played anybody yet.
Ohio
State.
Penn State beat Purdue. Purdue's a good team. Purdue would challenge for near elite status in the Pac-12. Purdue would.
I don't know. After Wazoo won today,
Purdue
choke
would
up a little bit saying that.
Purdue would go 9-3, 10-2 in the Pac-12.
I guess we'll find out. That sounds like some bias, though.
Well, we're not going to find it. Why is that bias?
Because Purdue just lost.
They lost to Penn State. They lost to a team in their conference.
Well, Oregon State should have beaten Purdue last year, so maybe I'm a little rattled.
Purdue would be a major factor in the Pac-12. I have no doubt about that.
But we thought that about Wisconsin.
We thought, what about just because they lost one game to Washington State? Again, we're making way too much out of one game.
In Camp Randall.
So?
Wisconsin's better than Purdue.
How do we know that Wisconsin's better than Purdue?
Well,
Purdue finished with a better record than Wisconsin. Well, they actually finished with the same record last year.
I don't even feel like arguing because the Pac-12 sucks. I get it. But we're getting better. I don't want to be.
Pac-12 had a great weekend for the Pac-12.
This is my final thought. I would like to think that it's the SEC and then a large gap, and then the other 4 conferences are comparable.
I'm not going to have 1 week change my mind about the Big Ten being the second best conference.
Are there any other marquee matchups on the non-conference schedule next week?
I would think so. We can look at them right here. But
I think Washington might play Michigan State, right?
My rankings of the conferences, yes. My rankings of the conferences are going to be an honest assessment of the results on the field. So the Big Ten may not be the second best conference in my rankings because they may not have the proper results. But I still believe it's the second best conference. Okay, next week.
Washington plays Michigan State.
All right, next week we've got, here are big non-conference games. Oklahoma, Nebraska.
Well, Nebraska's done.
Purdue, Syracuse.
Purdue should win that, but it could be close.
Syracuse is pretty good.
Yeah.
They're not bad.
But if Purdue is who you're saying they would be 9-3, 10-2 in the Pac-12, they should handle Syracuse.
They should handle Syracuse, but Syracuse just beat Louisville by 24 points.
The ACC is worse than the Pac-12.
I don't know about that. All right. Cal Notre Dame.
Oh, that could be closer than previously thought.
BYU Oregon.
Yeah, that's a toss-up.
Ole Miss Georgia Tech.
Ole Miss.
Penn State Auburn.
Toss-up. I lean Penn State. Auburn didn't show up today.
Vanderbilt Northern Illinois. But see, Connor, you should know college football a lot better than that. Just because Auburn just slopped around this week, too many people.
That's the only thing we have to go off of. Is the last game, the previous game.
Well, but that's like everybody expecting Florida was going to. I didn't talk to anybody that thought Florida was not going to beat Kentucky.
It was
just
a toss-up
because of
game
how
to
they
me.
played against Utah.
Well, but Kentucky was still top 20, and they did what they did last year.
And Auburn still was highly competitive with a bunch of top 10 or 15 teams in the country last year.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
If we're going to last year, Auburn took Alabama to 4 overtimes last year.
It's in Auburn this year, right? Auburn Penn
Yes.
State, because they played in. Okay.
Colorado, Minnesota.
Minnesota should win that. Minnesota's like the Oregon State of the Big Ten.
Kansas, Houston.
Kansas won today, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good win.
We've got Colorado
And Houston,
State,
Texas
Washington
Tech.
State.
Okay, Washington State better win that. I thought Washington played Michigan State. Or I thought Michigan State played somebody from the Pac-12.
Texas Tech, NC State. Michigan State, Washington.
Yeah.
Iowa, Nevada. Clemson, Louisiana Tech. Miami, Texas A&M. USC, Fresno State. And that's pretty much it.
Wow, that'll be a good USC, depending on how they do against Fresno State, should tell us some things going into week 4. Because we play USC week 4. I feel bad for Corey Brada.
Yeah.
Like, if they had Oregon State's offense, Iowa could compete for the Big Ten. They have one of the – I just feel bad. I can't even talk trash because he's such a good representation for their team, and their team even represents themselves well. It's just there's a play caller and a quarterback that everybody's too stubborn to keep around.
Yeah.
That could make a huge difference. I mean, Iowa should be the clear favorite in the West. And here we are. The West is up for grabs. Yeah, I feel bad for Corey Brada. I feel bad for Will. Because I wouldn't have called in if we would have lost. I would have been too heartbroken, been too embarrassed. But it was still a toss-up. So maybe I should drop that idea. It's just Notre Dame shouldn't have lost. Iowa shouldn't have lost.
All right, Connor.
Wrap
Great
it up.
weekend. Congratulations. Pac-12 is the second best conference in America. And
all right, make a video. At least I really appreciated the number 6 ranking. That was cool. When they were scrolling by and I didn't see us in like the 20 to 25 range, I was like, "Damn it, Mark, that's baloney." And then I left it on, and I see all these teams. Alabama's 9, and I see Oregon State 6. But I get your reasoning based off of impressive victories, and
all it is. Yes,
I still I think you should be where Josh Pate is. I think you need a studio. You need to hire some people.
Well, okay.
I don't want to talk trash on Uncle Lou. You need to be 50 to 100,000 subscriber range.
Well, Connor, I appreciate it. You understand there's a huge difference between what I do and what Josh Pate does.
The only difference is he got Academy Sports to sponsor him, and he has a few more cameras in a studio.
Josh Pate's working for somebody. You know, he's working for somebody, so he's not doesn't have to worry about
you wouldn't switch positions with Josh Pate?
No. I don't want to switch positions with anybody. I'd rather I don't want people calling the shots.
So you hire producers. You buy a studio. We will be there. You should be 100,000 subscriber range.
Well,
you're a voice. I was going to say voice of college football. That's redundant, but there's no reason why you shouldn't be on that level because you're more than these YouTube shows that do call-in shows. Obviously, you're not ESPN, so you're in the middle there. That's why I compared you to Josh Pate. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. You have people like Tony doing graphics. You start paying people to set up a studio or do it full time. I'm
working on paying it myself.
No, I know. I just think I'm trying to hype you up to the ceiling.
So Connor, you're and since we're so late in the show and we can kind of end it on this note about what I'm trying to do here and with people like yourself and shoot, Tim and Tony and I don't want to leave anybody out. Ben, I get tremendous support, Joey Foster, etc. There's so many things because, if you take somebody like Josh Pate's basically, he can spend all of his time working on what he's presenting. So he spends his time, I'm sure, reading a lot, watching games, and basically he's just a talking head. I'm running a business. So I don't get to spend enough time. I don't read anything. I should spend probably 2 to 3 hours a day reading, but I'm spending all my time just creating content on 25 channels. And I'm the accountant, I'm the salesperson, I'm the operations person, the technical person, I got to do everything. So I'm not spending the time I could produce a much better show if that's what all I did was produce shows. I could produce a much better show.
No, I think your audience sees that, and we appreciate how much time you put in, one-man operation. I'm always impressed when I see how many post-game shows you have with all the different channels you have, and they each have multiple thousand subscribers each. It's that outreach that I don't want to lose what you already have. It's not me losing anything. I don't think you should sell out in any way to work for a company. I just think that there is another level of production to your show that you could take on with just hiring one person, one or two people. And I don't know who that is. And I'm getting ahead of myself here. Your show, I found you. So many people have found you. And as far as the non-funded YouTubers go, your college football show is bar none ahead of the rest. You call it like you see it. Even though you don't like the Pac-12 and you let DeReal talk shit on the Pac-12, I'll let it slide. We love you. And I think if you wanted it to be so, and I think you're working towards it because it takes time and you've done it the right way. You've been on YouTube for a while and you haven't sold yourself out. Your opinion is your opinion, and you built up all these other platforms and YouTubers who are thankful to you. If you want it, I think we would be there to support you taking the next step to being, Josh Pate level, voice of college football, having sponsors, having multiple camera angles. I think you're better than Paul Feinbaum, and he's national media. So Anyways, I'm rambling, and
those are a lot of things that I think about, and certainly are on a priority list that I wanted to get done this off season, last off season. In terms of, I would like all of this to appear much better, have a true set.
No, the helmets look good.
A lot of things going on in my life that don't allow me to right now. And
well, you're a family man, and as far as I know, I'm not religious. I try to be, but you seem like you're a man of God and a family man and all that, which is like admirable. And I think earlier this summer you were at like 32,000. I mean, you've grown 5,000 just since the start of, like, in a couple months since the start of the football season. So if you keep pushing out this football through the season, there's no reason why you shouldn't be 50,000. So everybody subscribe if you're still here, putting up with an old beaver.
Well,
but
I appreciate.
I'll let you go.
The last thing I'll say, and you don't have to be on for this, and probably nobody will be even on or listening at this point. But believe me, I do not consider myself a perfectionist, and it's a good thing I'm not. If I was, I would jump off a bridge. But based on working in the TV industry for almost 30 years and at ESPN for 19 years and knowing what good content is, I don't like what we have currently. I'm not proud of it. I would like it to be so much better from a graphic standpoint, from a production standpoint, even from a content standpoint. I don't have and can't take the time that I would like to be able to really put together the kind of content that I think would be exceptional. So I'm not happy or pleased or proud of what we're producing right now. So I strive for it to be better. Absolutely.
Well, don't be. I speak for the people. Don't be that hard on yourself, because you're doing it, and the content is being pushed, and we see how hard you work. We have high expectations for you in this channel, because this little community we have. I mean, I'm not on Discord, but like this little community, I always see the same name in the comment section. It's fun, and you started it all. So I don't want you to be to think that you should be doing better just off of you're hard on yourself. I think you the sky's the limit for you, because your voice is representative of, I think, of all of our fan bases, and we're gonna be behind you. So let's get this thing to 100,000 by the end of the college football season.
I love big goals.
50,000.
I love that.
No, 100.
100. Let's stay at 100.
All right. Yes, sir.
Connor, for all the crap I throw at the Pac-12, I appreciate you hanging with me. And
hey, it's right.
I don't do that intentionally. I call it as I see it, and I will certainly give a lot of respect to what the Pac-12 did this weekend in Oregon State, and that will be reflected in my rankings. It will not be reflected in my bias that the Big Ten is the second best conference, because although I do believe that it is, it did not play that way this weekend. And so when I throw all those results together, I don't know what I'm going to come out with on Monday for a conference rankings list, because right now the Pac-12 certainly notched some impressive wins, and even the losses were understandable.
Well, good night, Mark.
Thank you so much, Connor.
We all appreciate you, and you make a difference in the football landscape. I can say that.
I appreciate that, Connor. Glad you could enjoy a big win tonight.
Let's go. All right, till next time, my friend.
Thanks, Connor. All right, we got Exploring with Ben and Sam, rapid fire, Oregon best in the Pac-12. Yes, after that amazing effort against Eastern Washington. Sure. BYU next week. You can prove it then. Tim, thank you so much for being here. Rapid fire, Big Ten West, the worst division in college football. May have played the worst. That's possible. May have played the worst. It's not the worst division in college football. The Big Ten. What is the worst division in college football? That's a great question. Let's let the rest of it play out. It's certainly not been looking good. Lost to Iowa State, Washington State, Duke. Ugh. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I would say based on the results, it's the worst division right now. Although, shoot, those ACC divisions. Okay, where are we? LBC. Did USC just win the Big Ten West today? Is that the transitive property? USC beat Rice. Who'd Rice beat? Did USC beat Stanford? Stanford beat. Of course, USC will be in the Big Ten, and yes. Maybe Stanford's going to join USC and UCLA. Maybe. Man, we're jumping on the Big Ten. Nevada fans. Nevada's got a game against Iowa. So you can stake your claim to Big Ten Western Division supremacy too. I love that Mark is taking any of this seriously. Hey, the way the Pac-12 played, the way the Big Ten West played today, hey, I will take it seriously. And Georgia is overrated. Okay. Exploring with Ben. Patreon. Yes. Join the Knuckleheads on Patreon. You get the Discord link. And full disclosure, because of situations like Baylor going to overtime, when I had 3.5 points with Baylor, they had to go to overtime and then lose by 6. Or I had picked Pitt and 6.5 points, and they go to overtime and lose to Tennessee by 7. Has meant that I have wound up with an, I believe, 8-11 record against the spread. Ooh, that hurts. Okay, there it is. But you join Patreon, not for my picks, but you join it to join Discord. Go to Patreon, MarkRogersTV, sign up there. We get you the Discord link. I will be back at some point on Sunday, certainly with my top 25 that actually makes sense, and conference rankings, and whatever other narrative, kind of like Jimbo Fisher this afternoon. I posted a video on Jimbo Fisher and it's not working, Jimbo. I'll have a few more of those. And finally, prediction from Ian, college football playoff semifinal, Akron 52, Georgia 7. See you on Sunday.